You're listening to the Renaissance Men podcast. Listen and subscribe on patreon.com. Now here's your host, Stuart Garrard.
Good evening and welcome to our 2020 Spooktacular. I am your host, Stuart Garrard, and joining me this week are my undead brothers, James Midgemeister Perkins, Seddon, and Mideon.
How you doing, mate? Undead. I'm not dead yet. Just because I may have COVID and I'm in isolation doesn't mean I'm dead.
To the listeners, they should know. Yeah, well, you got a little text message, didn't you? Who have you been hanging around with, you dirty fucker?
My ex, to see my son.
Oh. Well, so, she's riddled.
Yeah, she's riddled with COVID. She tested positive earlier this week. But just a few days before that, I went to see my son like I do every weekend. Yeah. So obviously I spent time with them. So then she has to fill out a little form or whatever to say she's been in contact with. And obviously I start getting a text message and emails.
Oh dear.
Saying if I leave the house in the next 14 days, if they catch me, it'll be $1,000 each time.
That's your PS5 and Xbox gone down the shitter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh dear, mate. Stay indoors.
We did ask whether podcasting with you, whether we could use it as well, but apparently the law doesn't cover to podcasting, does it?
If only.
No,
if only we could. Well,
the stupid thing is, even people that I've seen in that time before they told me to isolate, I don't have to do the same thing, so I don't get a link to fill out a thing saying who I've seen until.
So have you got to have a test or anything like that? That's weird, isn't it?
So I wonder whether they listened to the podcast and just assumed you'd been at home going through the room of doom.
I suppose it's only if
moving a telly down the stairs.
Yeah, it's only if you test positive.
Yeah, I suppose if you start getting symptoms within the next couple of days and then test positive, I suppose then it's like a film we'll be talking about later, where it just keeps going down the chain until it gets back to the source.
Yeah, I think scientifically, I've got tomorrow to show symptoms. If I don't show symptoms tomorrow, I'm going to be showing no symptoms.
Fuck science. Just take 2 weeks off.
Like, I can't work from home anyway, so I don't even get to not go to work.
Yeah. That's the shit thing about working from home, isn't it? I ain't gonna lie. They've screwed us over.
Yeah, and the problem is, like, my job's not terribly difficult. So even if I was actually ill, I'd still just work. I wouldn't take the day off sick. I'd just sit there and work because I'm just sitting at home.
You absolute trooper, Mideon. Absolute trooper. Yeah.
You deserve a raise.
You do. I just have images of you, that episode where Homer Simpson gains 300 pounds to get himself off work, and he figures out that dipping bird can basically replace him.
I've gained 300 pounds, but not to get myself off. just a lockdown, mate. I've gained 300 pounds.
Well, yeah, haven't we all? Well, actually, no, I haven't. I'm like rapidly losing weight like an AIDS victim. Going well, Slimming World.
I honestly don't think I've weighed myself in about 10 years. So I could be scientifically and clinically obese, but I don't look it. But I could.
Yeah,
I don't know what I don't know exactly how tall I am. I don't know how much I weigh. I just don't care. I'm alive still, so that's a plus.
That's a good way to live.
Yeah, I'm alive, so fuck it.
Don't know how big my penis is. Never thought of it.
I can't
I'm alive. It doesn't matter.
My penis has gained 300 pounds
through excessive
top heavy
in isolation.
Engorged. You heard the dulcet tones of James Midgemeister Perkins there returning for our Halloween Spectacular. How are you, Midge? How goes life?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I'm currently wedged in between two dogs. I'm currently dog sitting for my sister.
Dirty.
I know.
Nothing to do with engorged penis, we promise.
But no, I'm ready to talk horror. It's my favourite genre, and it's the spookiest and the best time of the year is Halloween in October. It's my favourite month.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season to be spooky. So yeah, I'm excited to talk all things horror.
Excellent stuff. Good to have you on here. I'm hoping the old film's going okay.
Yes, yeah. I was going to when we get on to what we've been doing, essentially, I was going to talk a little bit about that. So I'll save that for then.
You tease. And finally, Seddon, how are you?
Pretty good, mate. Pretty much the same as what Midge was saying. Although for me, the second most wonderful time of the year, Christmas still wins, but Halloween comes a close second for me. Favourite parts of the year, and fantastically, this weekend gives me a chance to use all those toilet rolls that I hoarded at the beginning of lockdown for either a fancy dress costume or shitting myself a load when I'm watching horror movies. So finally, I'll get some use out of it.
There you go.
Or you could use it to throw at people when they try and come near your house for trick-or-treating, because people should be staying at home, so just yeet toilet rolls at them saying, get the fuck away from my house.
Bother. Like, even people trying to sell shit don't come to my house anymore, because unless you've booked an appointment with me, and this includes family, friends, I ain't getting off that couch. Like, if that doorbell goes and I'm not expecting,
quite the reputation.
Chance. And I'll even look in their eyes through my window and stare them down and not move, because I'm not answering the door unless
I could just imagine someone going, "Oh, I haven't seen you in months. It'd be lovely to see you." "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm fully booked that day." And in his diary, it's just like just blocked out for socialising.
What's I turn into John England?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like your home's your home, and fuck off coming round my house unless you pre-warned me that you're coming round, because I won't let you in. And that was before COVID. That's not because of health and safety. That's because I'm a miserable antisocial bastard.
That's the thing. I've always, with COVID going on in the world, that's kind of entered our vocabulary now. Is if you were talking about something that happened before, it's like, oh, pre-COVID, and pre-COVID this and pre-COVID that, and it's just got to a point where people are going like, oh, I feel so antisocial now, and I'm like,
why is everyone camping your world?
Yeah, I know, you really are representing the whole world as camp now.
It's just how I impersonate people. But yeah, so people feel so antisocial. I'm like, well, I've always been like this. So even pre-COVID, I didn't want to be near people if I could help it. So this was, as I said on the last show I was on, isolation was an absolute lockdown was an absolute doddle for me, and it's looking like we're heading for lockdown 2 electric boogaloo. So if that does happen, then the introverts will reign supreme once again.
It's that choice, isn't it? Like, I think everyone has the right in their life to choose, and generally I want to choose who I see and when, and I don't like people getting up in my face when I don't want to, and this has been fantastic for that.
Exactly.
Legally they're not allowed to get up in my face anymore, so I don't even have to seem rude anymore when I say get the fuck back, I don't want to speak to you.
I know. I love the fact that before pre-COVID, there we go, there's the vocabulary coming out. Pre-COVID, when I told people to stay away from me and give me some space, they would look at me as if I just shat in their cornflakes. But now people are so used to it that I can get away with it. Brilliant. Love it.
Well, I didn't realise I was. Well, I say that. I did realise I was surrounded by miserable bastards. But it's just,
we seem to have dragged another one into the club. The most positive man in the world's become miserable now.
Holy shit.
No, that's just having to deal with humanity. When I'm not having to deal with humanity, I'm bouncing off the fucking walls, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, so no PG from me tonight. It's Halloween. Halloween is an 18 rated season, 18 plus rated season. So, the gloves are off, as they say.
The best age. After this break, we'll answer some listener questions. Oh, shut it. We'll answer some listener questions in Ask Us Anything, and I'll ask my brothers, what have you been playing and watching this week? So join us after this.
The pus seeping from the infected wound of culture. This is
the Renaissance Men Podcast.
Welcome back. Right, let's kick things off with a listener question, and it is suitably Halloween themed. Thanks to Chris Lacey, who submitted this on the Facebook page. Chris, I think He's formerly host of the Show and Tell with Tunes podcast, and I think he also did some stuff with Ben Wyatt. I think he was involved with Asian Mania. I could be wrong. Chris, let us know. But he asks, right, and it is wrestling themed. In a fatal four-way, who wins? Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, or Candyman?
Michael Myers with a cash in.
Okay, all right. You've really taken the wrestling theme to another level.
It did seem like a notable exception there. I was hoping he would be in that list.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Candyman. How does
how did Candyman get in this list? I don't understand.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just
bring in the hook for a bit of variance.
Diversity.
Just as a flex. Just as a flex. The Candyman Tony Todd follows me on Twitter, so flexing.
Yeah. Whoa, focus.
From those four, I'd probably say Freddy.
I mean, I binned off Leatherface straight away when I looked at it because I just thought he'd take a fucking whooping from any of them, I reckon.
Yeah.
Well, he's the most mortal of the four.
Yeah. But like Jason and Leatherface, they hardly speak, do they? So they're not going to say Candyman 3 times in the mirror. So they're not going to lose to Candyman, are they?
So we're writing off
didn't
Candyman? No. So Candyman wins then?
So I was going to say, didn't Jason beat Freddy in the movie?
I don't know. Don't remember.
Or did I imagine that? But
honestly, a lot of the sequels for both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street I've just forgotten. So I genuinely can't remember Freddy versus Jason for a lot of it. I can't remember.
See, I was kind of inclined to go with Jason because, as I say, I think he's beat Freddy. I fancy him in a fight against Leatherface. And Candyman seemed more bothered about macking on that chick from that movie rather than actually fighting. So I think he'd be off doing something like that.
I will say,
Jason,
though, I am very much looking forward to the new Candyman next year.
The trailer looks okay.
Yeah. It was one of the many horror films that was due to come out this year, but then, of course, the C word reared its ugly head. So that, along with Halloween Kills and various other ones, have been delayed. But it's looking like next year, especially next Halloween, is looking pretty stacked for some awesome horror movies. But I would say Freddy myself.
The original Candyman is one that didn't get the love that it deserved, and I think it'd be nice for a remake to potentially get eyes on that first movie because it is a cracker.
Yeah, I think out of these four though, I'll go with Midge. I'll pick Freddy.
I'll go Freddy.
All the rest are like physical things in it, but Freddy's in your brain.
And all the others have to sleep, surely. So Freddy will just fuck you up in your sleep, you know?
Exactly. Freddy gets Johnny Depp money.
Yep. I hope we've answered. I think we've answered that quite conclusively. Freddy wins. Are we all in agreement? Freddy wins.
No, wait, Jason.
They said Jason. Well, it's 3 to 1,
mate.
I know. I think the podcast says but personally, no, Jason, man. He's already done Freddy in once. Do him again.
It's an interesting one. I think we'd all agree the booking would be horrendous, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Hornswoggle in the real world.
Yes, who was the leprechaun, of course.
Yes.
Another horror legend.
Well, yeah, he should have been in it. Warwick Davis was cracking as a leprechaun.
Hornswoggle or Warwick Davis, who wins in a bar fight?
I would watch it. I don't care who wins. I would watch that. They could put that as an hour-long Iron Man match, and I'd watch that.
I'm pretty sure there's enough horror icons you could probably get close to a Royal Rumble.
Yeah, probably could.
I think my favourite Leprechaun film is The Clash of Stars, the Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yes.
My favourite one.
Yeah, the gangster one, yeah. I haven't seen it, I must admit, but it does seem quite tempting. I'm not going to lie.
Stick it on your list for the weekend, mate.
Thank you, Chris. If you want to get involved, head over to our Facebook group and submit your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them on each show. So thank you for that, Chris. Right, it's now time that I ask my brothers briefly, what have you been playing and watching this week? And I will kick things off. I've only got 2 quick ones. The first being The Boys Series 1. Spoke about it for the past couple of weeks. And I've completed it now. Watched the first series, done. I know we said we were going to maybe talk about it next week. Hopefully I can get the second series completed as well. But that first series was awesome. The way it ended on such a cliffhanger. I won't spoil it for the listeners, but yeah, I'm just glad. I said to you guys, I was just glad that I didn't have to wait the year or whatever it was to like see what happens next, because that would have been quite the wait. But yeah, it's a show that it asks that interesting question, like what happens if superheroes are utter cunts, and I think it answers it rather entertainingly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to banging into series 2 on that, and I guess we can talk about that later in a couple of weeks or next week, whenever. And just the only other real thing for me is I finally completed This Time with Alan Partridge. This kind of came out earlier in the year, I think it was like January time. So Alan finally made it on the BBC. It's a big time production. He is essentially hosting a one show equivalent. He's kind of made the big time due to some unfortunate luck for another presenter who dies. So Alan takes up the reins, and yeah, suitable carnage ensues, and it's just fantastic. It's very, very similar in kind of style to Mid-Morning Matters, if anyone has caught some of that Partridge. For me, that's some of the best Partridge, as I've mentioned on previous episodes of this show. And it's in the same kind of vein. It's got Psychic Simon in it, and their relationship is just fantastic, how they bounce off each other, and I just love Alan Partridge, and this was a brilliant kind of return to the mainstream for him on BBC One. So yeah, go check it out if you haven't, and if you are a fan of Alan. That is pretty much me. I've been playing some Fortnite as usual. There's nothing. Oh, and I was going to run through the Treehouse of Horrors, but I ain't going to lie to you. I think I got to about 10, and then the quality just drops off a cliff with most Simpsons. So yeah, there's some classic stuff in there, but I couldn't be bothered to watch all 30. And yes,
I was asked, mate, have you watched a lot of the more recent stuff? Because I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, like, I switched out of The Simpsons at some point because I felt like it was really taking a massive dip in quality. But it was suggested that, like, last few seasons, it's really kind of had a bit of a renaissance. But I didn't know whether you've caught up on any of the latest stuff and whether it is any good.
I really haven't. I mean, I just struggle to kind of get past, I don't know, like series... late teens, I guess. That stuff is just really kind of disappointing. So yeah. I don't know. It might be worth checking out. I mean, I think series 30 starts soon. Yeah, and I think that's going to be on Disney Plus exclusively. I say I'm not sure about that actually, but it's certainly going to be on Disney Plus. I don't know how the Sky rights are affected by that now these days. I'm not sure, but.
Or the Channel 4, we constantly show it on Sunday morning rights as well.
But yeah,
yeah, I think they still show it after it's aired on the channels that it's supposed to be on
Sky
in America, and in Fox in America and Sky over here. So once it's been on there, it's going to get on Disney Plus afterwards. Okay,
that's cool. Well, it's good that Disney Plus get like the first run of it, as you would expect. But yeah, so, no, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think peak Simpsons was mid to late 90s for me. When I was kind of the right age, and it was amazing. But no, I don't know. It feels like I've just grown out of it, really.
There's not many shows that manage to churn out so many episodes consistently good as there. No matter what they do, no matter how far they go, even if it's a season 100 and it's absolutely toilet by then, they'll still always retain that amazing record for producing quality for so long.
Indeed, but so like I say, a few Treehouse of Horrors have been watched to get me in the mood for Halloween, and that's pretty much me. Mid, I'll come to you as you're short on time. What have you been up to this week, bro?
I've been playing. I thought because I'm in isolation, I'll bust out an MMORPG. So I decided to get. It's on Game Pass anyway, but I bought an expansion, Elder Scrolls Online.
Yes.
I bought it originally when it very first came out on the PC, and then I played it a few years ago on the PS. This thing's been out since like 2016.
Yeah.
I played it a few years ago on the PS4 as well, and I've just picked it up on the Xbox on Game Pass. So my character's like level 22. So I thought since I'm in, I might as well just get this and sink a fair few hours into it. It's quite good actually. There don't seem to be that many improvements since I played it on launch and years ago. The base game seems like quite overwhelming, the amount of quests you can do and all that kind of stuff. But I suppose, you know, perfect for me at the moment because there's just an endless amount of quests. So yeah, it's going to keep me busy.
Good. Well, you got 14 days worth, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, after the 14 days, it will be nearly time for my Xbox, no Xbox, won't it? So that's why I picked it up on the Xbox as well, because it's one of those games you can I would be able to install it on my new Xbox and just carry it on.
It's crazy that what is it? It's two weeks yesterday from when we're recording, because we're recording on the 30th. 2 weeks yesterday for the new Xbox and 3 weeks yesterday for the PS5, if I'm not mistaken. It's crazy. It's crazy how close the new generation is.
I don't know what you guys feel. I'm in a bit of a funk with my gaming at the moment. You know, I'm just kind of tinkering with stuff. I can't get motivated.
I can honestly say I don't think I've ever been in a gaming funk in my entire life. Like, I've always got something that I'm playing or obsessing over. Like, I never, even with films, like, just I never get into a funk, really.
Yeah, I think my playing stayed the same, although I guess it's a bit of a fear factor of not wanting to lump into anything right now that I don't think I'd get at least done to a reasonable standard by the time the new console comes out. Because I imagine whatever I'm playing the day before my PS5 turns up, you might as well just fuzz it in the bin because I'll be playing whatever's coming with the PS5.
Yeah, that was partly my point in playing Elder Scrolls Online as well.
That's a perfect game for that, isn't it?
It's not going to... I feel comfortable playing on the old consoles because it's not going to change too much. I know there's going to be an upgrade for it on the new ones, but things like there's new expansion things for like Ghost of Tsushima, and I bought Days Gone a few months ago now actually, and all that kind of stuff. But I know they're going to be enhanced on the new consoles.
Yeah.
Like, I've still got to finish Gears of War 5, but I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to play it now because I might as well play it on my new Xbox to see what the graphics are like on that. So there's a lot of things that hold me back from playing some of the current gen games now until I get my new console.
Yeah, you mentioned Days Gone. That's something that I've had Days Gone since it came out, but I haven't actually played it. I think, I've played like half an hour of it or an hour of it. But now I got to a point where, like, last week I was like, I should really play Days Gone. And I was like, it's about a month till the new consoles come out. I might as well just wait and play that on the new consoles, because there isn't a terrible amount that I'm going to be getting at launch for the PS5. I'm getting, the Ultimate Edition of Spider-Man, and obviously Astra's Playroom comes with it, and I'll probably pick up Sackboy's Adventure. But then, other stuff like the Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, as much as I want to get that on day of release, I kind of want the boxed version. I'm a bit weird with box versions, but that doesn't come out till December. It's really weird how, Watch Dogs Legion, for example, that came out yesterday. But if you want the PS5 version, it comes out on the 24th of November. Whereas you can just buy the PS4 version now and get the free upgrade.
Yeah.
Assuming, for the sake of 5 days, you might as well just release it on release day. You know what I mean?
It's cheaper, isn't it? I assume. On PS4, so you can just pay the.
I think it's actually the same price on Amazon, $51.99. I think it's the same price on both.
Did you not do that, Mid? Did you not kind of get a few? Are you not doing that with Assassin's Creed or something? Did I remember that conversation right? You can buy that.
No, I don't. You can get the PS4 versions for cheaper and then just upgrade it. If you want, but with mine, there was like a voucher on eBay the other day, so I managed to get Spider-Man Ultimate and Demon's Souls for like 60 quid each.
Sweet.
Which was all right.
I'm not fussed with Demon's Souls myself, but
yeah, I love those kind of games. I can't wait for that.
Shit.
Even though when I'm because I need something to do, so I'm going to play Elder Scrolls Online. But even when I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online, for some reason, like the kind of personality in the back of my head, every time I get to a loading screen, I think, well, this is shit. If I wait a week and play it, this loading screen is going to be gone.
You mentioned loading screens. Like they've said that for the Last of Us Part 2, one of the people that got hands on with PS5 early said that on the PS4, one of the loading screens was like a minute 40 seconds. And on the PS5, it was reduced to 13 seconds, the loading screen.
Wow.
Which is mad. It's like a
wait
90% faster. It's mad.
I'm going to miss my scratching time, though. You know, you just kind of ponder the world.
Ponder the world. Guys, when I die in a game, I'm like, let's get back into it. I'm not going,
I don't die. That's too good. we all know that.
Yeah, I remember to turn off the washing machine. Just scratch my testicles. Hang on.
So I think that's all I've been playing. I've been watching. Not been watching too much. I watched on the very last episode now of Blood of Zeus on Netflix. It's like an animated. I shared the trailer with you guys.
Yeah,
a while
I've
back.
queued up for this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it, and I was hoping you'd watch some because I wanted to know whether it's any good or not. Because I was hoping to get that watched this weekend.
It's good. I mean, the story isn't, because it's based on like Greek mythology. The story doesn't deviate too much from like classic Greek stories, but the character designs and all that are really good. They're not, some of the characters are not what you'd normally see from the Greek versions of the creatures and all that kind of stuff. So the animation's really good. It's very violent. The episodes are quite short, although the last episode is like double length, it's like 40 minutes. So I think each other episode is like 25 minutes. So it's quite good for me because I don't like really long episodes of things. I tend not to get invested in them because the episodes are really short. It's quite good for me. But yeah, I'll give it a go. It is really good. And then you can see what it's all about, Stu, instead of saying I don't know what this is when I watch the trailer with you.
Do you know what? I don't think it was only that. I'm sure we actually even talked about it on a previous show as well about why we're looking forward to it. So.
I've got a lot of things to manage here. You don't do this like a nerve sensor on my desk. That's my excuse.
Since I wasn't on last week and it is Halloween, I did a few weeks ago watch all of Blind Manor.
Yes.
I still haven't watched it, so no spoilers, please.
So we can't spoil it for me.
There's ghosts in it, Mitch.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Hidden ghosts. So try and spot all the hidden ghosts. So I went on YouTube.
I've heard there's like 150.
Yeah, after I watched it, I went on YouTube and I was like, I didn't notice any of them. I think I noticed about 2. Yeah. That was it. But yeah, it's really good. I'd say it's not as good as Haunting Hill House. It's not as good as Hill House. Yeah. I didn't like it as much as that, but they're doing another one, aren't they? So there's the third one lined up. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called now. It's got a name, but the guy's making another one.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of becoming a bit of a cash cow, isn't it, for Netflix? I think they do really well. I assume. I don't know. Got no evidence to say that, but
I mean, Mike Flanagan just loves those ghost stories as well. So I think
Mike Flanagan's an incredible filmmaker. Yeah. I mean, for example, he took a really shit horror movie in Ouija or however you want to pronounce it, and did a prequel and made it really, really, really good. And
the only bad bit about that, though, I don't know if he did the same as me, Midge, but then I thought, yeah, this is really, really good. So then I went and watched the others again, and I went like the actual film, and I went, oh god, this is still shit, isn't it?
No, don't worry. No, I just watched that and thought, right, this is the definitive Ouija film. I mean, I love his other work, like Oculus, I think is a fantastic little horror movie, and Hush is a absolute little masterpiece on Netflix. I love that so much. So yeah, he's a super talented filmmaker. So yeah.
Midge, just one question for you. You're the only one out of the gang that's getting an Xbox Series X. Are you hyped? Yeah. Are you? What the hell are you going to play on it day one? What's your thinking?
Assassin's Creed. I've got Assassin's Creed ordered. So
that's your plan.
That comes out day one. I'm a bit disappointed there's no actual exclusive games. But I'm, even though it's not the best way to experience, I'm looking forward to playing Assassin's Creed, even though it's not technically a next gen game. It's supposed to be like 4K 60 frames a second. I imagine the loading's better and all that. So it's probably the best platform to play it on. on the day it comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to playing all my old stuff. Like we say many times, the beauty of Xbox is there's so much stuff on Game Pass, and
that's the key, isn't it?
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll probably load up some Game Pass stuff and see what it's like on the new console.
Well, yeah, love to hear your thoughts once you've got an actual hands-on with it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it for you in a weird way.
I'm hoping it comes early, but it's from Amazon, so
No, you're not fucking getting that, are you?
doubt it'll come early.
I do wonder a bit about that sort of Game Pass, because over this time we've all talked about like how great Game Pass is, and obviously the PS5 is decent for me because it comes with that PS collection with so many of the like previous generations or current as it stands games. But I wonder when I've rinsed through those, I think I will start to feel those pangs of missing Game Pass and having so many games available for free. But I guess I can still use the Game Pass on my PC, but it will be missed.
Oh, actually, I forgot. I ordered Yakuza Like a Dragon as well. So
Oh, nice. Okay.
that's a launch game, so I'll give that a go.
Yeah. That does look kind of cool. I've never played it. Well, saying that, I've played like Yakuza. I think I played 2.
Yeah, this one's turn-based.
Yeah,
this
it
one's an RPG, so
kind
it's
of
probably more
interesting.
up my street.
It looks like Saints Row.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it looks batshit crazy.
Yeah, Midge, it looks totally like the kind of game that you'd love, mate.
And when does that come out?
Comes out on PS4 on the 10th, I think, the same. But the PS5 version is delayed until next year because Xbox got the exclusive rights to it.
So basically what you're saying is just buy it on PS4, put it into your PS5 and play it.
Yeah. And then but you won't get the enhanced edition. You'll just get the normal version that plays until next year when they release the patch for the PS5.
Well, it would still be slightly enhanced, surely, by just the power of the console. So
yeah, I imagine the loading times and all that would be better.
Unlimited power.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, Mid. Anything else, mate? Any wrestling you want to mention at this point? Or
I don't think so. I didn't watch Dynamite because it wasn't live; it was taped, so I already knew the results, so I didn't bother watching it. You watched it, Seddon?
Yeah, it took me. I think it was only late last night I actually got round to watching it. It was strange because I prioritised NXT this week because it being Halloween Havoc, and I thought, with the theme. But I thought both shows were really good this week. But I have seen a bit of criticism here and there for Dynamite for some overlong segments and some criticism of some of the matches being too predictable. But it's wrestling for you, isn't it? Like, sometimes you go into these matches and you do know who's going to win.
Well, I think even though I haven't watched it, I think the fact of the finals of the world title tournament being the way that they've going the way that it's gone. Yes, it's predictable, but I mean that was kind of foreshadows back when the two people in question, no spoilers here, the two people in question had a bit of a spat not too long ago. So, that was pretty obvious that this was coming, but that doesn't mean that the final itself isn't going to be an absolute barnstormer. So, and whoever does win that is going to have a great match against my boy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're bothered about spoiling it because it's been on, as it said already. So, yeah, like you say, the other side of it, if the finals were Pentagon versus Wardlow, people would complain they don't want to watch that. You can't really win, can you? So they've gone for the match that most people
want to watch. The age
of
the internet, you can't win.
Yeah, I mean, it's the match that most
wins,
people want to watch. It's the most interesting story of the whole program, if you ask me. But it's what people want to watch. I mean, that and obviously the Young Bucks and FTR, with the Young Bucks announcing that if they lose, they're never going to go for the tag titles again.
And I feel like in both those matches, so like Page Omega and Bucks Revival, that these are the first matches that will be part of a long series of matches, and they might leave decent gaps in between, but these are long-running storylines for them. And, it's not going to be a one match and done, but by the same regards, I don't think we're going to get them fighting each other every pay-per-view, like some of the criticism we had recently for WWE with McIntyre Orton. I mean, they just buried that by just doing it over and over and over and over again. But I think we will see multiple matches between Page and Omega, but
there'll be gaps between. And I think having this tournament was smart to give them a reason to be in the ring to carry on this story for even bigger payoff later down the line.
Yeah, I mean,
because later down the line it should be for the title, right? So that's the natural progression that should be happening.
Yeah, well, they're not going to have matches every week. In about 6 months' time, when Page is obviously ready and he's obviously going to win the title off Kenny, I'll be going nuts in my living room. I'll be going crazy. I imagine hopefully there's a crowd then, they'll be going crazy, and Page will come off all the better. So
that's the thing. It's trying to balance sort of when crowds are going to be back in a decent capacity, because that's the whole thing with WWE at the moment is, in my opinion, Orton should have taken the title off of McIntyre at the second time of asking, at the latest. It was in the ambulance match at Clash of Champions. He should have won then. But obviously the story of this is McIntyre will win back the title, but he should win it back in front of a crowd to get that pop that he should have got at WrestleMania. But with the way the world is going and people being as fucking stupid as they are being, it's hard to predict when we are going to get crowds back, at least in any decent capacity. Because obviously, you see a small crowd at NXT, but when are we going to get 10, 20, 30,000 people back in a stadium as it's going? Not for a long time, probably not till 2022.
Not that I'm bitter about the McIntyre Orton booking, but I think in our prediction contest, I've predicted Orton every time they've fought, apart from the time they the only thing I was going to quickly pick up on the wrestling side was, watching both those shows, and I thought there were some really good matches on both Dynamite and NXT, but the standout performer for me this week was Adam Page, because I thought he made Wardlow, which is again like someone who's got talent and obviously got a look that they really want to build around. He made him look amazing, and I think that's the truth of when you see a great wrestler, is when they can make the person that are against look great. And so hats off to the boy this week, and I imagine Kenny Omega and him will put on a cracking match. Was it 2 weeks till Full Gear, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of weeks to go. Yeah, it's middle of November, isn't it? I'll probably pay the £20 to watch it.
Yeah, this one feels like a decently. You're going to have some big matches on this one, whether they are great matches or not. But I certainly think probably that match alone might be worth it. And I hope for the Young Bucks revival, although I do fear that might be a lot more of a screwy match with what they're doing with Matt Jackson being injured, not injured. I think that one might be a bit more storytelling than great in-ring action. But yeah, great, an excellent week for NXT and Dynamite, and not so much Monday Night Raw. But when is there a good week for Monday Night Raw?
Did you
they've announced and I think with COVID and no crowds and everything, even though the booking was bad before, I think now they just don't care. Like you see the card for Survivor Series, you're like, no thought has gone into this whatsoever. It's the same as the last 6 years, is it now, or something? It's just ridiculous. It's just like thoughtless is what it is. It's just you don't need a writing team when you're just going to put the same show on you have for the last 6 years.
I think you're right, mate, because they had their quarter free earnings and like their profits are through the roof.
Yep.
It's crazy how
I suppose it's because people haven't been able to go out and do stuff. They've been able to save that money to buy those sweet replica titles. I must admit, I did look at some of the offers the other day and I was like, ooh, £210 for the NXT Championship.
You can be the champ in your house. Well done.
Mate, I always have been and always will be.
And they also WWE also announced they're going to be producing a documentary with Netflix about Vince McMahon. My excitement for this was kind of dampened a little bit when it was pretty much going to be produced by WWE, so it's not going to be a warts and all type affair, is it? It's going to be it's
somewhat damning for your own network, though, isn't it?
It's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, we'll just say goodbye to Mids. Thanks for joining us, Mids. It's an absolute pleasure as always. Bye, and we'll speak next time we see you. So take care, mate. Thank you for joining us. So I don't know what that documentary will be like, but it could be interesting.
I just hope that Netflix are going to do some sort of chicanery with it, and like WWE will turn over this absolute puff piece about how great it is, and they'll get it into their cutting room, and they'll cut in all the bad shit he's done over the years, and then just release it. That'd be great.
Yeah, like telling Matt Riddle to no longer be called Matt Riddle and just Riddle.
Riddle with this.
Just call him the Riddler. They've missed a trick there.
Yeah, they have. A load of people have been saying that. But what is his obsession with getting rid of first names? I mean, obviously we've got used to it with Cesaro and Rusev and stuff like that over the course of history. But Riddle just sounds dumb.
Riddle the diddle. Yep.
Probably some sort of like time saving thing, isn't it?
It's probably worked out, right? We can get in more superstar names, more basic, like more kind of advertising or whatever.
He applied a set of principles to his writers and said, if I save you first names, you can double your output.
Yeah.
Or no, maybe it's just so that whenever a new pay-per-view comes around, they can add some stupid slogan onto it, like because it Clash of Champions Gold Rush, or what they were saying on Monday Night Raw when they had the Survivor Series qualifying match. It was the Survivor Series qualifying match for the men's Raw Survivor Series team, and they said that whole thing.
Isn't it? It's very catchy.
They said that same thing every single time they said it. They said it in full, and it's just like I've noticed this as well over the last couple of years with WWE. Do they really think that everyone that's watching is fucking brain dead? Like,
yes,
do they think that we forget everything? It's like, I suppose so. But we have to be told that Survivor Series is the one night of year where Raw and SmackDown superstars go head to head. It's like, wow.
Except for all those other nights when they do it.
Except for when Braun Strowman faced Roman Reigns 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, when Braun Strowman had already been traded to Raw.
I know it's a tad early, and we are kind of rolling through the script, but just very quickly, like picking up on the top five, Chris Lacey actually gave us a top 5 horror wrestlers.
Oh, okay.
So I thought this might be a time
to
chuck it out there. So
hit me with it.
I'm doing it in kind of reverse order, although he didn't necessarily say it's in this, but I'm saving the first one he put down till last because I know Stu will mark out for it. But he's got Bray Wyatt, the Sinister Minister James Mitchell.
Oh, nice.
Vampiro, Zombie Undertaker, and brace yourself, Stu, Papa Shango.
Yes, Chris, I knew I liked you.
Yeah.
Good old Chris.
I mean, it is something that like wrestling has touched on. I mean, we said earlier, like in NXT had a show called Halloween Havoc this week, and historically that was an old WCW pay-per-view. And as for like the non-wrestling fans on here and the wrestling fans, like the wrestling companies have tried horror over the years to mixed results, I'd say. But these stand out for some of them for being quite compelling characters, and others for being Papa Shango.
You wash your mouth out.
Oh, it's cracking. I did ask him whether he just forgot to put the Yeti down, but still my favourite horror wrestler of all time.
Yeah. Well, I think I've always said when wrestling dabbles in like the unbelievable kind of superhero, supervillain type stuff, that's when it's at its best for me. When you got characters like The Undertaker,
that's what you want. You want
it may
silly,
be,
goofy supernatural stuff, because the whole point of them actually fighting is unbelievable anyway. So you might as well go the whole hog, and just go absolutely batshit insane.
Well, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later when we get to the top fives, but it gives the companies a chance to do something very different, doesn't it? And dabble in storytelling that they don't tend to flex the muscles of elsewhere. So I'm a fan of when they do it, but as I say, over the years, it has sometimes contributed to some of the most cringe-worthy but funny wrestling moments.
I'm kind of surprised that they haven't dusted off that Halloween Havoc show before now.
I wonder why. Yeah, I wonder why they've left it this long to do it. But
it's because AEW wanted it.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it seems like it would be ample, like month end to go. Yeah, we'll do Halloween Havoc.
Yeah.
No monster truck fight this time though. That was the only disappointing thing about this week's Halloween Havoc.
I have no knowledge of Halloween Havocs in the past. Sorry, Mitch.
Oh, dude! Like there's some amazing moments. So you have Hogan versus the Giant, who's now the Big Show. They had a monster truck off, but that culminated in Hogan throwing the Giant off the top of a building. Only for him to come back later to win a match, and that's where you get the amazing debut of the Yeti. And it's a beautiful moment in wrestling where the Yeti approaches Hogan from behind, Big Show from the front, and they just kind of, I think in their head, they thought this will look great, a double bear hug. But it just like it looks like they're kind of doing some sort of weird rape of Hogan. And the Yeti is actually a mummy, not dressed as a Yeti. So he's in a mummy's costume, but he's a Yeti.
Weird.
Classic stuff.
Weird.
Speaking of horror in wrestling, I just wanted to give a shout out to easily the best piece of the best bit of Raw this week was the Bray Wyatt Alexa Bliss stuff with Randy. Obviously, the Fiend's now on Raw with the Twisted Sister Alexa Bliss, and I love this long-term storytelling because Randy Orton was a guest on A Moment of Bliss, and before that there was a Firefly Funhouse segment, and there was a really brilliant throwback to when obviously Randy Orton had his feud with Bray Wyatt, and he burnt down the shed that housed Abigail, and I just that was what, almost 4 years ago, something like that. I think it was WrestleMania 33 that Randy versus Bray took place.
That's where he walked down to the ring, and they put those weird sperm things on the
giant sperm, and
yeah.
then you had the maggots projected onto the ring and stuff. Yeah, the match itself wasn't great, but I just love the fact that they're throwing they're actually using long-term booking. The Fiend is Bray Wyatt as the Fiend is going back and correcting all the people that have wronged him in the past.
But I mean, noticeably, like whenever he's involved, and I don't know why he manages to convince writers to allow him to do it, but most of his stuff is like that. I mean, we go back to that Mania Cena match, and that was fantastic, drawing on stuff over the years. And we talk about when wrestling is good. For me, that's when wrestling is good, is when they build on stuff, and even if it's something that was bad, use it. Use it to tell your next story. And he's great at that. And I think that's because they give him a bit more freedom to actually. I mean, maybe he's just smarter than the average wrestler, and that's why he integrates that sort of stuff into his stories.
Yeah, I mean, Alexa Bliss is doing the best work she's done in ages. She's really taken this role on. She's really taken the bull by the horns, so to speak.
Still think it should have been Liv Morgan.
I know. I mean, I would have originally agreed with you, but seeing the way that Bliss has dealt with this was absolutely brilliant. Again, talking about long-term story booking, using her in the Braun versus Bray feud. She wanted something new and fresh to do. By all accounts, I've heard reports that she went to management and said, "I want to do something new." So they thought, right, we'll put her with Bray Wyatt. And then, I think the world title picture, as much as Bray doesn't need the world title, I think that having Drew chasing Randy with the title now and the Fiend cropping up being like, "Oh, I haven't forgotten what you did 3 years ago," I think there's so much potential there. And that was easily the 100,000,000% the best thing about Raw this week. And it's the one thing that's making me want to tune into Raw is Bray Wyatt. The reason that he was originally drafted to SmackDown is because Fox knew that he was a draw. After the debut of The Fiend, he was an instant draw. And now Raw have it actually gives people a reason to want to watch Raw. And then, of course, they turn off when Retribution comes on, because that's a waste.
Similarly, though, I was a little bit gutted for Drew McIntyre because obviously he lost his title. And
but like we said, he's gonna win it back, and I think obviously the whole thing of a babyface chasing the title is a much more appealing thing, but also the fact that he's going to win it back when there's a crowd and he can finally get that moment. So I'm pretty sure he was totally open to the suggestion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. But then I would, after losing my title, what I wouldn't want is on the next show, the next Monday Night Raw, to have Randy Orton having a choice to go face to face with the Fiend or Drew McIntyre, and he pretty much fucking skipped down the ring to go and see Drew, and I thought it made Drew look really weak. He was like, "I'm not going near this fella. He's rock hard. I've beaten you." Well, so yeah, I thought that made him. Look a bit weak this week.
Well, the thing about that I did actually really like was the fact that he knew the Fiend was there and didn't turn around. I thought that was a nice touch. But yeah, but still. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to give a shout out to Bray Wyatt.
No, thank you. Well, as you've got the mic, Midge, what else you been playing and watching this week, or if anything?
Well, as I alluded to earlier, I've been hard at work on the edit for the Veil of Isolation. Mm-hmm. That's going really well.
Good stuff.
I had an initial first cut, which was coming out at 24 minutes, which is way too long. I'm in the process of having to chop off about 8 or 9 minutes off of that, which is a tough task. It's a tall order, but one that I'm relishing and really enjoying. That's what I can really say for now.
I imagine that's the hardest bit is, when you got a film that you've lovingly produced and filmed and written. It's your baby, isn't it? And to
chop off one of its legs.
Exactly. Yeah, it must be devastating because you must love all of it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I love every second of it. But my producer Scott was absolutely right. Film festivals will look at the runtime of stuff, and if it's from I'm a new director. If it's from a new director, they're not going to want to put all their faith in giving up, like a half an hour time slot for one film. Whereas if it was 15 minutes, they could fit that and another short film, two in the space of 1 30-minute slot. So I think, there is stuff in there. Like there was one scene which I've completely cut, which is a scene that I really like. And, taking it out, the film still works, but there are some, little subtle nods in that scene. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll have the festival cut, and then later down the line release an extended cut with all the footage that I the big chunks of footage that I cut out. Because it's stuff that, like I said, it's not that important, but I still really like it. So that's taken up a lot of my time. But as I mentioned, or I think you've mentioned on the show in my absence, I've been doing my usual 31 Nights of Horror challenge.
Yes.
So every night of this glorious spooky month of October, I've watched a different horror film, with the last 5 days being reserved for my 5 favorite films of all time, which we will, of course, talk about in the next segment. So I've had a wicked time. I've rewatched some of my old favorites that aren't quite in my top 5. I've watched a lot of new stuff. Some of which I've really enjoyed. Some that hasn't been that great. But I wanted to also mention, because I know that Seddon, you were looking at the 4 Blumhouse films.
Yep.
I wanted to also mention that they have at Blumfest, the online digital festival run by Jason Blum, they've announced that they're doing 4 more Welcome to the Blumhouse.
Yeah, I saw that news. I think I saw the news today about it, and I guess we'll pick up on that in a minute. But having watched those 4, I can't wait for another 4. Fantastic.
I mean, it'd be interesting because I watched them. I watched one a day for 4 days straight. I thought I'll start on the Friday that they came out, and then did that over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm interested to.
Just clarification, Mitch. Sorry to interrupt. These are the films that you can get on Amazon Prime. Is that right?
Yeah. Welcome to the Blumhouse. There's 4 horror thrillers that were produced by Jason Blum, and they've been released on produced alongside Amazon Studios, so they are exclusive to Amazon Prime. and they all dropped on the same day. So there were 4 films. There was The Lie, Evil Eye, Nocturne, and Black Box. And I think that I'd be interested to hear your rankings of the 4 of those, Seddon. For me, the best one was Black Box. I think by quite a
time.
Yeah, exactly. It was just an hour and a half of that, Stu.
Well, that's the thing. All 4 of the
Tube.
films were basically an hour and a half, give or take a few minutes either side. But I think Black Box was the best by a long way. Then I'd probably say Nocturne and Evil Eye for me were sort of on par with each other, but I'd probably say Nocturne was my second best, and then Evil Eye a very close third. And then right down at the bottom, I think was an absolute pile of dog shit, was The Lie. I did not like that at all. I thought it was wank.
I'm definitely with you with Black Box. I mean, I thought that was really good. I thought it was a really interesting film, really well made. But I will say,
it's like Get Out mixed with Black Mirror in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it did have a big
not
Black
following
Mirror
the same
vibe.
storyline as Get Out, but it had sort of similar story beats in a way to Get Out, and some of the scenes were shot very similarly. So quite heavily inspired by that, but it did. It definitely had a lot of Black Mirror vibes, which I really, really dug.
Nocturne was a closer second for me to Black Box than it was for you. I kind of really vibed with Nocturne.
Nocturne felt like again, talking about being inspired by the filmmakers, felt like it was inspired a lot by Ari Aster.
Yeah, and it had kind of more of a witch vibe, possibly touching on a bit of sort of Suspiria and things like that.
Yeah, it's like very sort of Suspiria mixed with Midsummer, kind of like that sort of stuff. Yeah.
And that sort of thing I really like. I mean, I think the only thing that held that back from being the top one for me is I didn't massively find the characters compelling. I thought the acting was a bit weaker in that one, but I thought it was a really good showing. I mean, it was one of those ones where I would watch anything else made by the people who do that. I have The Lie in number 3 as the rest, and you really didn't like it, did you? Whereas I actually
fucking hated
enjoyed
it.
I'm
sorry
if it's the simplest and I'd say the most base one of them. But I mean, it's all kind of predicated on a lie, and the suspense of the movie is that a young girl has killed one of her friends, and over the movie, the parents are trying to cover it up, and I guess you're seeing, and I say the parents are divorced parents, and you see this lie spiral as things get found out, and I think it follows a lot more simpler format than the rest, but with that one, it's the opposite end, where I thought their acting was quite good in it. I thought they managed to make a simpler script a bit more interesting with the way they performed it, and Evil Eye would have been the bottom one for me, but I really enjoyed that as well. I mean, I thought all 4 of them, and maybe it was the length of them, like an hour and a half, they had a story to tell, and I think they told their story well and compelling enough for the hour and a half they were there. And as I say, I'd definitely come back and watch the next 4 that come on there, and do some of them lean a lot more in the world of thriller than horror. But they all have horror elements and enough to them for me to kind of count them in that genre. But certainly, I think if anyone's got Amazon Prime, I think
they're worth checking out for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
but if you can only watch one of them, go for Black Box. I'd say.
Absolutely, yeah, Black Box hands down. I was really, really surprised by that, because I thought, sort of looking at them from the outside, just looking at the posters and reading the synopsis, I genuinely thought that Nocturne was going to be a clear front runner for me. But Black Box was very much up my street, and I thought it was performed really, really well, directed crisply and efficiently. And you kind of hit the nail on the head with the length of them. I think that's something that a lot of people forget is with horror films, there's an hour and a half. Like I'd say an hour 25 to an hour 40 is kind of the optimum time for a horror film. I think it gives plenty of time to develop the characters and the scenarios and deliver some really interesting scares. Anything shorter or a lot longer usually falls flat and feels very, very bloated and sloppy and like a slog. I mean, apart from, I think that the master of the long horror films is Ari Aster. I mean, just look at Hereditary, and the director's cut of Midsommar is like 2.5 hours, but that's just an absolute fucking masterpiece. I love both those movies so much. I
reckon we might be covering one of them later.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think for me, I completely disagree with you when it comes to The Lie. I think that it was a really, really paper-thin plot, very, very predictable, and I don't want to rag on this actress, but I mean, I'm sure she's a really, really nice person, but I just don't see the appeal of Joey King. I feel really bad for saying that. As I said, I'm sure she's a lovely person, but I don't know why she's so bankable. I mean, she's been in some of the worst horror films I've seen, Slender Man, Wish Upon, and now The Lie. I just don't understand why she looks
a bit sad naturally.
Yeah, she does.
I think they
really
cast
sad,
her because she's got a look like she is either going to kill you, she's going to cry, or you think she's just about to go over the edge and become unhinged. So I think it's the look she's got more than the talent, I guess.
But I didn't find the characters likable, any of them. I thought that especially her character was an absolute bitch.
That's what it sounds a bit daft to say this, but that's what I liked about them is I don't think you were supposed to like any of them because of the lie that they got caught up in, and I think you were supposed to dislike them and disagree with the actions that they took, and possibly in your head go, would I have any affinity with this? Like, so I guess for Mid and Stu, it's like, if your kid killed another kid, would you try and cover it up? And I think that's something that probably like parents, and again, not having kids. Oh yeah, I'll be selling the story to the papers, trying to make a few quid out of it. But yeah, I think it is probably has like a compelling element from that side of it. But I mean, like, obviously, don't want to get into kind of where the story goes and whether there's any twists and turns. But you are right. There is some predictability to it. But I don't know. I just found it was decent, like it was just watchable, and as I say, I quite liked watching the parents go through that, and they're flawed, they're divorced, and they sometimes like each other, sometimes don't, but it presents them as kind of weak characters that in their own head are trying to do what they think is the right thing, but probably they're actually doing the cowardly thing, and I don't know, it was just decent for me.
I'm sort of, again, going to play devil's advocate and tell you why they really didn't appeal to me. Like, with that, there's being a weak character and there's being an entirely unlikable character. I wanted some sort of sensibility that having flawed characters is great, because obviously it gives you the chance to have an arc. It gives them an arc to, make these questionable decisions, and learn and grow from them. But for me, I thought that just the divorced parents were completely unlikable and in some cases quite unbelievable. And I thought I hated Joey King's character from the offset. Like I didn't care that they're trying. I think they're trying to play the card like, oh, her parents are divorced. Feel sorry for her. No, I didn't buy that at all. But yeah,
Heart of Stone.
The thing is 2 points on that. One, who ever thought we'd be in a universe where I was being the positive one about a movie and Mitch was criticising? But more so, I actually think, strangely enough, I think we did watch the same movie and we saw the same things, but I think we just wanted something different out of it. Because I'm with you. I don't think they're likable, and I think that's the point. And I think the only character that you're supposed to have any sympathy with is the dad of the other kid. And I don't think there's any other character in the movie that you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to think that they're all like from a level from a bit of a shit right the way out to a total cunt bag, and that you kind of want them to get some comeuppance and it not go well for them. And I think they delivered very, very well on that part of it.
Just to say, welcome back, Mid.
Hey, he's back.
Yes,
It's all right. Read some Thomas books, as you do.
Yeah, as you do.
You motherfucker.
I did give you a glorious send off. Actually, I didn't know he was coming back, but yes.
I'll have to listen to.
It was quite heartfelt. Well, kind of.
He was virtually sucking your dick. But yeah, so as I said, I think that it's crazy that we've talked so extensively about the worst one in my
one we like the least.
Yeah, but I think again that's what makes movies so interesting to talk about is the fact that you can have these discussions, and usually it's the films that you like the least that
drive the most conversation, don't they?
Yeah. But along with those 4 movies, as I said, I've watched some other fantastic horror films for the first time this month. Going to Shudder, which I know that you guys have been been checking out. Obviously, I've watched Host about 4 times before October.
It's funny. I was thinking of that. When you were talking about the length of a horror and how a horror movie can be much shorter but still do what it has to, and my mind went straight to Host because obviously that has your limited runtime, but it doesn't suffer for it. In fact, if anything, I think it's enhanced by having a shorter running time.
Absolutely, yeah. If that movie was any longer, it would have fallen apart for me. As much as I wasn't overly keen on the ending, I'm kind of like split on the ending because I love the fact that it utilizes the mechanics of Zoom, but I think the way it actually ended was a bit of a slight letdown. But
we talked about it and we said, I think if you did that in any other time, if you did that pre-lockdown, let's go with that again, I don't think it would have been anywhere near as effective. But I think pretty much like 90% of its audience has had a Zoom call in the time and had that. So yeah, that's why I thought it was so clever this time around.
I think it's an absolute, masterful piece of work with limited resources and obviously with the restrictions in place in real life. And I'm quite friendly with the director Rob Savage and one of the co-writers Jed Shepard. My 5, because I gave it a 5-star review for Starburst because I do think it's a 5-star movie. I think it's absolutely fantastic. My 5-star review actually makes it onto the UK poster because it is getting a limited theatrical release over the very few cinemas that are still open in this country. Which is super, super cool. But going back to Shudder, there's been some other fantastic horror films that I've checked out on there. One of them being a horror comedy called Scare Me, which I thought was brilliant. It's about these 2 writers that get trapped in a log cabin in the middle of a snowstorm, and they start telling each other scary stories. I don't really want to say much more than that, but it is a great sort of I think it was an hour 40. But there were plenty of laughs and some interesting techniques in that film, which I really, really enjoyed.
And I want to say thanks to you because you recommended that one to me, and I also watched that this week, and I agree with you. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a great idea. Not something I've necessarily seen anyone do before, and it has a lot of tropes, like without going into spoilers that are there, but I think they do everything in a smart, funny, clever way. And the main actress in it is the lass who plays have you started Boys season 2 yet, Stu?
She's in Boys season 2, isn't she?
Yeah, she's the lass who plays Stormfront in that, and a very different character in this than she plays in the Boys 2. But it was nice to have watched the Boys 2 first because it was nice to kind of see her do a different role. But I'm right on board with you on that. I would recommend Scare Me to anyone, even if people who aren't like horror fans. I think it has enough humor in there to pull people along to get into the story.
The funny thing is, I think she's the best performance in that movie. She probably gives the best one of the best performances I've seen this year for me in terms of in movies. She was on fine.
2 people, isn't it? It's 2
but
people.
For the large part, yeah. And they bounce off each other amazingly, but she sort of takes that performance to another level. The guy in it, Josh Rubin, I I remember when I first saw the trailer for Scare Me, I was like, I swear I recognize that dude, and I recognized him from his days on the YouTube channel College Humor. That's where he sort of got a lot of his fame from. And I was like, I'll check this out. And I think it was on the day that it came out, I watched it, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Had a whale of a time. Sorry. So yeah, also just very, very quickly, because I feel like we have been rambling and we want to get onto the actual Halloween stuff. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the big London-based film festival, Fright Fest.
Yep.
I've always wanted to go to Fright Fest, like, for the longest time, and I was planning on going this October, but then they had to cancel the physical version and change it to the online version. So I managed to spend one day last weekend dedicated to all things Fright Fest, and I watched 4 films last Sunday, all coming out of Fright Fest. And then, of course, one of them I classed as my daily horror film, and then the other 3 I just sort of were extras, essentially. So I watched an Argentinian film called Scavenger, which I thought was awful, absolutely dreadful. I feel really bad for saying that as a fellow filmmaker, because I know how hard it is to make a movie, but I just felt like it was kind of like, it was billed as Mad Max meets Natural Born Killers, but it had zero plot, really bad directing, over-the-top violence for no reason that made no sense, and it just felt like it was going nowhere. And even though it was only an hour and 15 minutes, it felt like it dragged on for about 2 hours. Then I watched, speaking of horror comedy, I watched a really funny movie called Slacks, and that was a film about a pair of jeans.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah, it's a pair of jeans.
Related.
Yeah, a pair of jeans that comes to life and kills people, and that was really funny, and it was good because the director did like a pre-screening little video, and she said it is a political movie. It's not subtle in any way, shape, or form. It is very on the nose.
How is it political?
Because it's all about saying, child labor in like Africa and India is bad. Using genetically modified materials in making clothes is bad, and all that sort of stuff.
It can join Rubber in my top 5 inanimate object murder movies. Yeah.
I tell you what. I watched Rubber as part of 31 Nights of Horror. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. And
I love the quote that I use from that on the reg is no fucking reason.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that is used so much. Like, why is there a tire like going around killing people? Why are we all like gathering on the hill watching it through binoculars? No fucking reason. Yeah. That's brilliant. Perfect. And then the third one was a home invasion thriller called Lucky, which was absolutely fantastic film, gripping from start to finish. A brilliant central performance by Brea Grant. Brea Grant's been like absolutely killing it in films this year. She wrote and directed 12 Hour Shift, which I've heard amazing things about. She starred in an amazing film called The Stylist, which screened at Fright Fest as well. But I backed that on Kickstarter, so I got an early screening of it a few weeks ago. And then she wrote and starred in Lucky. So if when that eventually comes out on streaming, I definitely highly recommend that. And the final film of the day, which was the closing film of the festival, was the third installment of the sci-fi action franchise Skyline, and it was the third one was called Skylines, and that was just some dumb sci-fi fun. I quite enjoy the other two. They're not very well written, particularly, but when you just want to see some alien invasion movie that's dumb and fun, with some pretty cool fight sequences, then that's kind of ticks all the boxes. So
wasn't the sequel released on streaming and not the cinema, from memory?
Yes, Beyond Skyline did get a streaming release, and that starred B-movie action hero Frank Grillo and the legendary Iko Uwai from the Raid franchise. He was in that, and I think out of the three, I think Beyond Skyline was my favorite, because that just sort of like fully ran in the direction of, this is ludicrous, but we're going to have some fun with it. And there were a lot of moments in the third installment, but in some moments it did take itself a little bit too seriously, and I was like, kind of just go the silly route completely, if I'm being honest. But apart from that, as I said, I've watched loads of other stuff. If people want to see what I've watched, you can check out my Twitter and my Instagram. I've posted what I've been watching every day on there, and I've been playing kind of the usual stuff this week. Dead by Daylight a lot, especially around Halloween. A lot more people play it around this time as well, and there's special events on for bonus XP and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, I'm really sort of holding out, getting balls deep, as they say, in a proper sort of story-driven game. I'm saving that for in a few weeks when the PS5 comes out.
Indeed. Thank you, Midge. Seddon.
Just a couple of real quickies for us, so we can get on with the meat of it. As I say, I watched the Blumhouse movies that we talked about earlier and scare me, but I have tried to kind of spend most of the last week just blasting through a few recommended horror movies or smaller horror movies, and there's just a couple that I watched on Sky Movies that I just wanted to mention. I mentioned it last week, The Shed. And, it's not. And again, following on from Slacks and Rubber, there is a shed, but the shed isn't the killer. But it's quite a simple movie. A hunter gets bitten by a vampire and runs into a shed to avoid the sunlight, and then you find out kind of the shed is on the property of this family, and you get to kind of know the family a little bit. And it's a kid who's struggling with bullying at high school, or a couple of kids, I say kids, 17-year-old. It's a decent little movie. Like you're never going to it's never going to make someone's top 5. But do you know what? Does vampire story quite well, does like the teen horror bit quite well, even does kind of violent, gruesome stuff a bit well, and towards the end of it, I don't know, picks up some vibes of some like Lost Boys stuff and things like that, although not to that level. But no, well worth a watch. And the real surprise to me is Uncle Peckerhead, which I watched. It's on Sky Movies at the moment, and I was flicking through their horror section, and I saw a movie called Uncle Peckerhead, and I thought, what the fuck is this? But I chucked it on. Cracking, excellent little movie. It's in that kind of indie comedy horror vibe, and the premise of the story is a struggling punk band in America, not really very good, but want to go on a tour, got no money, don't have a van. They start for some random dude who has a van, offers to drive them around, and you find out on the night of their first gig, when they get stiffed by only being paid $3, that Uncle Peckerhead is actually possessed by a demon, and at midnight he turns into a demon that eats human beings. And the story is then about, do they carry on the road with Uncle Peckerhead, and the story of this band. And yeah, a cracking little movie. And you wouldn't kind of, I guess, get anything from the title, because I mentioned to a couple of people I worked with this week, and I think they all thought like it was going to be some sort of porno or Adam Sandler comedy, one of the two. But no, on Sky Cinema, give it a watch. I'm sure the director Matthew John Lawrence will appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get Uncle Peckerhead 2 if people actually start watching it. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I've a few bits and bobs. The missus is watching Sons of Anarchy from series 1, which is a TV show I've watched before, so that's been on the TV a lot, but nothing I'll kind of really go into. Let's just crack on with the horror meat of the show.
Lovely. I say it's been a while since we used the term meat on this show, but yes, the real meat of this show is,
Look at all that meat.
It's going to be our we've all bought our top 5 horror movies. So, I think Midge might be bringing some games as well. But yeah, we're going to take a brief break, and when we return, we're going to have a little round table about what horror the horror genre means to us, or whether we're fans, and I think it's quite clear that we all are. But you know what I mean. I guess what defines a good horror film. So yeah, join us after this.
A digital enema of sound. This is the Renaissance Men Podcast.
Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
We're phoning it in for the fucking cash. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
We always do.
That's if we got cash.
Quote. So this is going to be the meat of our show, as we mentioned earlier. So we have each come to the table with our top 5 horror films.
Yes.
Which we are going to present to you, the listener. But before that, we're just going to have a little brief kind of round table discussion about the horror genre and what do we consider what makes a good horror film, why we enjoy the genre, and I guess those kind of those questions. Just get a sense of what we are looking for in a good horror film.
Sure.
So I want to kick things off with Mid. Actually, bless him. Now, I didn't know, Mid, that are you much of a horror fan? You've got some quality films on your list, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, cool. As you can see from my list, I'm a horror fan, man.
I don't know why I sound so surprised. I do apologise.
Favourite type of film growing up. I always used to watch horror films. Still watch horror films. I don't get much time anymore to watch horror films, but and it's the problem with horror films. I think, obviously, you guys mentioned loads of great ones, but I think you can get a trope in it. You can get it where it's done too much. So once you've seen like the first type of a horror film, for me, like watching others that are the same type and not much different is boring. I want to see things, try something different. So yeah, that's why I've probably got a lot of older films on my list. Compared to some people.
Some incredible films though, from some incredible directors.
Yeah, I mean, speaking personally, I think horror films are the ones that have always intrigued me, and I can kind of pinpoint it back to when, in the days when you had a video shop.
Yeah.
You'd go into the video shop, and I distinctly remember just standing and staring at the VHS covers of horror films. Horror films always had the best covers, had the best posters, best covers, and they were just like looking into these like little worlds, and you just wonder, what the hell is that about? There's a house there with a severed hand, house 1, 2 and 3. What the hell are they about? Or the alien with the fly with the massive fly legs stepping out of the pod. They're the memories that get me. It's kind of when you get a book, like a really pulpy book that's got an amazing cover, and then you're just desperate to get into it and read it. Horror films, and they kind of have the same feeling for me. So it's quite an aesthetic thing for me, I think. The horror film, and that idea of the cover and just what that represented for me as a kid. And you were never allowed to rent these films. It's kind of
There was always in the 18 section with the pornos.
As I said, I'm very similar to you, Stu, with like it being the video shop, and I grew up in quite a small like sort of villagey town thing, and there was a video shop, and you'd have there was like one shelf that had all the new releases, and there was never anything on there because that's what everyone rented. And then there was a shelf of horror movies, and there was a shelf of martial arts movies. So I spent a lot of my early years of life just working my way through the horror movies and the martial arts movies because that was the only thing I could rent. But yeah, it kind of really resonated with me at the time. And I think you're spot on about the joy you win with the covers and some kind of not only good covers, but like fantastical titles to movies along the way and things like that. And there was that bit of, I guess at that stage, that mystique, because I would be watching a movie that I was too young to watch. And it felt like a bit risque sort of going into it, and also something that Mid said about horror tropes. I think the horror genre is made up of so many different genres within it, but one thing that it has done over the years is it will rinse and repeat the same old thing over and over again a lot of the time, but eventually you get someone who kind of reinvents that trope, and then you get really, really excited about it again, like specifically like zombies. You know, like over the years you get zombies done to death, and then you get someone who comes, I don't know, with a kind of a fresh new vision of it, and then all of a sudden that part of the genre gets reinvigorated again. But if you get burnt out on that, it comes back to the ghost story again. You know, the stuff we talked about recently with the Haunting TV seasons. You know, ghosts are very much the kind of horror genre du jour at the moment, and it's so versatile in being able to find an audience.
It's funny that you mentioned sort of the horror genre being so versatile. I absolutely agree with that. It's the one overarching genre of film and just medium in general that has so many unique subgenres. And it's something that, like you said, can be refreshed, where a lot of, you know, like your actions or your thrillers usually fall into that category of they get very, very stale and they are very, very samey for a long, long, long time. And you mentioned specifically zombies. They have actually been, you know, it has got to a point in recent years where we have had a zombie burnout. I think that's why series like, you know, Resident Evil, in terms of the game series, have sort of strayed away from that. But it's funny you should mention it, because that's something that as a filmmaker, I want to be. My goal is to be that person that refreshes a subgenre of horror, and most specifically, I want to refresh the zombie subgenre. I want to do a zombie movie that completely blows people away, presents them with stuff that they've never seen before, or stuff that they've seen before in a very, very different light. And I've had several ideas that I'm, you know, currently in the process of developing, you know, as of right now. So that's very, very exciting.
There's something in, I mean, not to pick on Slacks, which I don't think's made it into any of our top fives, but something you said there is that a lot of filmmakers will use horror as the genre, but to tell a story about something else. You know, it's a very good framing mechanism for tell powerful tales. But also right the way down to, you don't have to tell a powerful tale either. You can just go down to an absolute base kind of like slasher, or like whichever sort of, like a real base genre movie where you're just doing it for kicks and cheap thrills. So yeah, it runs the whole gamut, and I don't think there's many other genres out there that do that.
I don't think there is any other genre out there that does that. And
also, like, it's often cheap to make. And I know like that depends on the effects used, etc. But traditionally it has been and again, when I say cheap to make, it's easy quite often for filmmakers to make their money back on it. So it is a playground they like to play in. That
look at the Blumhouse model. Yeah, the Blumhouse model. It takes, I mean, as much as the Blumhouse model can be very, very, very hit and miss in a lot of aspects, I like what Jason Blum does is he takes these interesting ideas from new or relatively new independent filmmakers and gives them that funding and that platform to try something. And like you said, it might not be a hit, it might be an absolute flop in terms of critical response, but it's still going to be something that at least breaks even or makes a bit of a profit.
Yeah, you try and make the next superhero movie. You're not doing that for any less than $100 million plus. Whereas you're trying to make the next, let's pick on Friday the 13th. You can do that relatively cheaply, and so your margin to make your money back is relatively good. And again, I think it allows them to take greater risks than you probably can do in, like, let's say AAA like blockbuster movies.
Yeah,
I think versatility is a key discussion point here, because for me, like we said, horror is the most versatile genre. And I think that basically comes down to everyone, is scared of something that's really personal to them.
Absolutely. And just to briefly just take that point, that's what I wanted to achieve with the Veil of Isolation. Is, I've sort of briefly touched upon the synopsis on the show before, but taking that fear of isolation and being alone and not knowing what's going on outside, not knowing if you're ever going to go out again. I wanted to take that very real fear and use it to my advantage and use it to tell a story and develop a character and a world around that basic human fear. And one of my top 5 films is based off, again, at its core, a very, very basic human fear of being followed. And there's a hint for one of them, at least. But just taking that very, very simple part of human nature and turning it up to 11, as they say, is the grounds for something really, really special in a lot of cases. And one of my other films is based around grief, dealing with grief, and that's something that everyone in no matter what shape or form, everyone's dealt with grief about something or someone in the past. So again, taking that basic human emotion and fear and really playing on it is so effective.
Well, kick us off then, Midge. Run us through your top 5.
Do you want me to go from 5 to 1, or just do 5 and then go? Shall I run through all mine first then?
Go 5 to 2, and then we'll do the ones at the end. How about that?
Okay.
We'll all announce our one at the end.
That's a good shout. I like that. Okay. Right. In that case, then, so I'll kick it off with number 5. I mentioned the film dealing about dealing with grief, and I know, Stu, I won't spend too much time talking about it.
I genuinely haven't even seen the film. It's just a funny name. Okay. That's why I picked on it.
So the Babadook from 2014, directed by the incredibly talented Jennifer Kent from Australia, is such a beautiful and harrowing and haunting film about a single mother dealing with the grief of the death of her husband and blaming her son for this, and the monster that manifests itself, sort of by attaching itself to her through her grief. And it's something that really does have to be seen to be believed. It's based on a short film by that Jennifer Kent did write and direct, and then she adapted it into a feature length film. And Essie Davis, who plays the mum, what an incredible performance! I cannot honestly. I think out of the list of my top 5 films, I think that her performance is the best of all of the 5 films.
It would have been my number 6, Midge. So it just missed, but I'm with you. I think it is amazing. And weirdly enough, I only watched it because it had a funny name. Like, I hadn't heard anything about it, and I just thought, that's a funny name. I will go and watch it. And the story is great. It looks great. It's directed great. But you are spot on. Her performance was the thing that drew me in. I was wowed by what she managed to get across in that movie.
How she didn't pick up a big time award for that, I do not know. I mean, that's another thing. I
think it went under the radar quite a lot, though, didn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it got recognition. I think it got Jennifer Kent recognition, but I don't think it would come out the blocks. It didn't have that kind of big audience factor that it probably needed to really get it into awards consideration.
And that's the thing, it gave Essie Davis and Jennifer Kent some great exposure. And obviously Jennifer Kent's gone on to do The Nightingale, which I still haven't seen, but it is on my list.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that. I've been gagging to watch that for ages, so I will do that very, very soon. But yeah, we mentioned that horror is so versatile, but it does slip under the radar for a lot of people because it is a very, in a lot of ways, niche genre. A lot of people don't like horror movies. They don't like the gore. They don't like being scared. Whereas me, the thing that really the reason why I love horror so much is that I get such a kick out of being scared. I will briefly mention, where it all began for me. We were talking about that earlier. I know it may sound stupid, but when I was younger, I was absolutely terrified of Preston the dog from Wallace and Gromit, A Close Shave. As a 5-year-old kid, Preston the dog fucking terrified me.
Wow.
But
revelations.
I'm going to have to Google Preston the dog to see what it looks like. I can't even remember him.
Right. He terrified me.
It's a clay dog.
But I got such a kick out of being scared. And that's where...
Oh, yeah, I know the one. Yeah, sorry.
That's when I first went... Oh my! I love being scared, and then as a kid, you have that general fear of the dark. But I was like, is there a monster hiding in the dark? I love this, the suspense, the thrills. I was getting such a kick out of it.
Sorry, can I just clarify something quickly? When I said, "Oh yeah, I know what you mean," I meant I know what the dog is. Not that I was scared of him as well. I don't want to be attached to that.
So, but yeah, it's something that a lot of people just don't like being scared, which is fair enough, and that's why I think that horror films don't get the recognition they deserve, unlike the big award ceremonies like the Oscars. I mean, obviously this year coming up, the Oscars are going to be very limited with the films that they have at their disposal to pick from. But I think that this year Elizabeth Moss should be nominated for The Invisible Man, for example. And I think that she's in with a great shout for that, considering that not a lot of other stuff has come out this year because of COVID. But yeah, going back to the Babadook, amazing, absolute masterful. You need to definitely check it out.
Just as a quick funny story about it. So when I watched it, where I work, I talk about movies a lot, especially ones that I've watched. And I'd watched it, and it was about 8-9 months later, and the lass that I worked with come in one day and went, I watched that movie you liked the other night. And I was like, all right, because I like a lot of movies, so I kind of needed a bit more. And she went, yeah, the shit one. And I thought, well, that's not going to narrow it down. And I went, what one are you talking about? And she went, you know the one about that fella. And I went, what movie are you talking about? And she went, about Bob. And I went, I don't remember ever talking about a movie called Bob. And she went, yeah, Bob Duke. Bob Duke. Yeah, Bob Duke. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, this film is great. I saw it. Like I say, probably related to the not getting the award and stuff. I didn't see it at the cinema, but it got quite a lot of buzz when it came out on DVD. And
I don't think it actually got a theatrical release over here, if I'm honest.
Did it not?
No, I think it got that general buzz from a limited American release, and obviously in Australia in its home country. And I think it came straight to DVD and Blu-ray over here because I picked up the Blu-ray when I first watched it.
I remember when I did first watch it, it surprised me because I was watching it cynical as I'm thinking it's singing very good, and then by the end I was like, oh, that was great.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, I was shocked by how good it was. Yeah, it's a really great film.
Yeah. So moving on to my number 4. Another indie masterpiece. I mean, I think most of my films can be classed as indie films. Maybe not number 2, although it's quite an old film, number 2. But number 4 is from 2015, directed by David Robert Mitchell, not DRB, and that is It Follows. I adore this movie. I don't just watch this just around Halloween. I watch it on the regular as well throughout the year. Again, going back to taking a simple human fear of being followed and really, really playing on that is incredibly effective. It's funny as well because when I have to describe it to people, it's like, oh, it's this. The easiest way to describe it is this girl gets an STD and it takes the form of somebody that she knows or doesn't know, and they keep following her. And then if they get hold of her, she dies. Which just sounds really weird, sort of saying it like that. But again, it's just so simple, so effective, And arguably the standout thing for me in this film is the score. The score by Disaster Piece is fucking incredible. Taking that synth 80s vibe and really dialing it up is just perfect. Again, I listen to the soundtrack for this film when I'm writing. It really gives me a lot of ideas and just helps those creative juices flow. And again, so effectively directed. And I've actually got hold of the script to read through again, just to sort of pick up a lot of skills for as I'm developing my my ability as a screenwriter as well. And I mean, what else could I say about this without spoiling it?
I was going to say
some
very
of
quickly.
the best scares. It builds that tension and dread of not knowing who's chasing you or where they are. And, you know, it goes back to the age-old question of zombies. Which are the scariest zombies? The ones that walk slow or the ones that run at you? I think the ones that walk slow are the scariest.
See, I spoilers going ahead, I might as well do it now. That made my top 5 as well, and it actually is number 3 for me. And I share the same love as you do with it, Midge. And I think you're right. I think that soundtrack is great. I think Michael Monroe, who plays the main girl, I think
she's brilliant.
She should be in every horror movie ever made, as far as I'm concerned. Because I think she plays that character fantastically well, and
she's incredible in The Guest as well.
Yeah, but. Yes, there was a real nostalgia kick to me. So that 80s vibe to it, and you know, like the way the characters are and the way they're living their life is very much like that. But for me, we talked about reinvention earlier, and it's not strictly this, but this felt like a really clever reinvention of the slasher movie. But in regards of it's not necessarily slasher, but it is that impending doom that's always coming towards you. You know, like when Jason was always walking towards you, or you were never safe, or when it was Michael Myers. But this does it in a really sort of smart, inventive, new way for me. And you are right; it's a tough sell. If you say to people, it's pretty much about an STD that will kill you, the people can't go, "Oh, that sounds a bit weird and shit." But yeah, I think it does. The dread builds throughout the film, and they are never safe. And the fact
and never will be.
Yeah, and the fact that the menace can only walk towards you. Yes, you could be really flippant and go, well, that's fine. But I think we said it earlier when we were talking about the fatal 4-way with Freddy Krueger is, but at some point you have to stop. At some point you have to sleep. At some point you have to eat. You have to piss. You have to shit. And that's all. That never stops. So that doom is always coming towards you. And yeah, it knocked my socks off when I watched it. I really wasn't. I was expecting it to be just, you know, like a fun little horror movie, but no, it's really got something to it that I think. I mean, I'd recommend it to anyone, but as I say, it's a tough recommendation because they go, well, when they go, what's it about? You go, yeah, there's you sleep with someone and then a monster comes after you until you sleep with someone else and pass it on. But yeah, great.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this, and it was Midge that said about it, and that's why I watched it. And I don't know if it's the same
hated
film.
It, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same film.
I remember that because I love this film. And you watched it and you hated it.
Yeah, someone said it was great, and I watched it and I hated it. Just to put my mind at ease, it starts off in a parking lot, doesn't it? Is this the same film?
It starts off with a girl running out of her house, and then she's sort of alarmed by an unseen force, and then gets into a car and drives away to a beach.
Yeah.
And then the camera cuts to like the next day, and she's dead on the beach.
Yeah, it's not this. This is a different film.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you hated this image.
I don't think I've seen this, to be honest, because what I'm on about is something about a parking lot.
But going back to what Seddon mentioned about the nostalgia, the beautiful thing about this film as well is I think it's timeless. Because it's never specifically said when it's set. And even by looking at the aesthetic, you know, the cars, the technology, it's so hard to tell when it's set.
Yeah,
And
other than the 80s
works.
kind of style theme tune, it feels like it could be anything from the 60s right the way up to today, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that works so much in its favor as well. And that's why it's just an incredible piece of horror cinema, really is. And speaking of an incredible piece of horror cinema that really sort of defined the genre and and pushed the boundaries and even became a video nasty at one point. And that's the original 1981 The Evil Dead, directed by legendary director Sam Raimi. A lot of people, including some of you guys, your favorite Evil Dead film is Evil Dead 2. For me, it's the original through and through that I adore, and I even really, really like the soft reboot / remake by Fede Alvarez.
Yeah, I like that. I thought it was very well done.
Which really plays into a potential sort of like multiverse within the Evil Dead universe as well. It's groundbreaking independent horror cinema, and there is obviously one of you guys has got another piece of groundbreaking independent horror cinema on your very high on your list, which really did change the game for the rest of time. But Evil Dead stands really, really high in my regard to just an absolute masterpiece of taking a very limited amount of resources with an absolutely batshit boundary pushing idea and just rolling with it. And
I feel like
I'm so inspired by the Evil Dead as well. Just it's such an inspiration to me.
I feel like I should make a confession here, because I do love the Evil Dead movies, and I do. My favourite one's Evil Dead 3.
Oh, Army of Darkness.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Army of Darkness is great.
Shop smart.
Army of Darkness is great.
Smart. Yeah, I mean, I love all of them. But for me, the first one is head and shoulders above all of them. And before I pass it over to the other guys, my number 2 favorite horror film of all time goes a couple of years before The Evil Dead. I'm talking about 1979, directed by the one and only Ridley Scott. I'm, of course, talking about Alien. An absolute masterclass from start to finish of tension, suspense, world building, dread. And, it's again going back to the age-old question of what's scarier, the slow zombies or the fast ones. With Alien, you could easily say what's more terrifying, one alien or loads of them. As much as Aliens is a fantastic film as well, directed by James Cameron, of course, Alien will always be the ultimate one for me, because having that ship and just having one menace chasing after you, to me, is so much more terrifying than having a whole army of them, and it always will be. And again, Alien is a film that I am inspired by, I look up to, and every time I get a chance to watch it, I am so excited to do so. And funnily enough, today being the 30th of October, tonight's movie is Alien. So once we've finished podcasting, I will be watching Alien again. And I love this movie, and I love Sigourney Weaver. I think that she's incredible in this movie. She carries it. She's arguably the best heroine in all of cinema. She's strong. She's powerful. And again, I with the scripts that I've written myself, I love to write strong, independent female characters, and I think that they are arguably the most interesting characters to write. And Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, is the ultimate female character in all of cinema history, I think.
Someone shared, I think it was like a Twitter post with me recently, which was like they were talking about the movie Alien, and they said it's the best example of a movie that if anyone had ever listened to the female character at any point, things would have gone a lot better. And you do, like, whenever you watch through that movie, every time she says we should do this, she is actually right every time, and just no one ever listens to her. And and I guess ultimate justice in the end is that she's the only one that comes out of it. So good on her.
Survivor.
Yeah.
She wins Survivor Series. But yeah, So that's just quickly run through 5 to 2. Number 5, The Babadook. Number 4, It Follows. Number 3, the original Evil Dead. And number 2, Alien.
Cheers, Mijo. Who should I go to next? Let's work up the list. Seddon.
So I said before the show, I just want to cheat very, very quickly before we start on the top 5. And funnily enough, it's good timing for it because there was a couple of honourable mentions that really didn't make it on my list, but there are reasons why they didn't make it on my list, and they were Alien, The Thing, Jaws, and Black Swan, which all of them I would count as horror movies. However, I felt that every single one of them would have made another top 5 for other reasons. So like with The Thing and Alien, I'll kind of go like, if we're ever doing a sci-fi top 5, they're my top 2. So I just felt like I wanted to not put them in here, but I do think they're all brilliant movies and probably should be in this list. But I just tried to discount things that would have shown up on other lists. Number 5 for me is The Ring, and probably certainly if our mate Kenny listens to this, he'll probably gob his tea out at this point when I say it doesn't matter for me which version of The Ring either. It doesn't matter whether it's the Japanese original or the American. I think they're both really well made. I think the American version is the best remake I have seen of a Asian horror movie ever. Again, comparably slightly different because they do westernize it a bit. But I think it's powerful regardless of which one you watch, and whichever one you watch first will probably end up being your favorite. But it really sort of stands out for me because for me, horror had gone through a bit of a sticky patch when this came out. It become a bit uninteresting in that time between sort of Scream and this. And I think there was just a plethora of movies that tried to recapture what Scream did and did it quite badly. And Asian horror had started to come to the attention of people a bit, and that's why I think the American remake of this is powerful, because I think it brings it forward. But at base value, we talk about the something that scares you, and possibly it wouldn't work now, and because we've seen other attempts at it, but it was that, and probably keys into something we talked about, Stu, earlier, about going to the video shop. At base level, this movie is you play a videotape. You see some really freaky shit on it. And again, not necessarily gross freaky shit, but it's some really freaky shit. And then you get a phone call that says you'll die in 7 days. And, they set up the premise quite early that actually that does happen. And then, go through the rest of the movie with an investigative journalist who sees it, and their kid sees it. And it adds in that peril of, and we joke about it, but I'm not a parent, and thank God for that, and thank God for the kids I didn't have, because I'd be a shit parent. But I kind of understand that concept of the sacrifice that you'll make to keep your child safe, and it really touches on that, whilst just being really freaky. And again, I think it is it lent towards what ghost movies do, but without having a ghost in it. It was very much more about that feeling of impending dread and eeriness, rather than the jump scares and the bang horror that we get in certain other genres. And to Nick from one of our listeners' lists, which is Marge, she actually included it on hers, and again, we watched it at the same time, or I had watched it before, but when the first time she watched it, I watched it with her, and this was in the days when you actually had a home phone, and we're halfway through the movie and the phone goes off, and you just go, fuck off. Yeah. I didn't think I'd ever be like afraid or ever maybe made jump by a phone ringing, but it did it. And again, I think it taps into those base fears again that are easy for us to actually have some affinity with.
Like you said, like I said, those are arguably the most effective horror movies. And I just want to say as well, I want to give a shout out to, if we're talking about honorable mentions, your number 1, Seddon, is a very, very close number 6 for me. I'm not going to spoil that. Yeah. But I want to give a shout out to another Asian horror movie, which, incorporates, a spirit possessing a phone and creepy phone calls and making the audiences terrified of their phones, and that's One Missed Call. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. There's the original Asian trilogy, and then the American remake, which isn't that great, but I like the they changed the creepy ringtone for the American remake, and I think probably the American remake ringtone is scarier. But the actual Asian film itself is much better. But yeah, you mentioned you're watching The Ring and then your phone goes off and you're terrified. What I did with one missed call is change my best mate Matt. I've changed after watching the movie. I changed his ringtone to the one missed call theme and put my number as unknown caller and rang him after I left his house one night and scared the shit out of him, which was great. But yeah, I agree that The Ring is an incredible series. And on a counter argument, where would you place The Grudge? Considering that's sort of held in as high regard as The Ring, and of course we got the crossover Sadako versus Kayako, which I thought was really good, dumb fun.
Japanese Grudge would probably be outside of my top 10, but not a million miles outside of it.
Okay, so
American remake, we'll probably get to about 1,000 horror movies in before that would even be a consideration.
That's fair. I suppose you are right. The American version of The Ring is a damn sight better than the American version of The Grudge.
And I think it gives a transition in. Like I think for a lot of people, we talk about on here about movies we like and trying to, I guess, upsell people on things that we like. And I think for a large part of the general movie going public, I think getting them to sit and watch an Asian horror movie would be a hard sell. But actually, I think you could put The Ring, the American version, in front of them. I think they'd enjoy it, and then potentially you could get them to watch Asian horror movies after that.
Again, it's so sad that subtitles are such a stumbling block for some people a lot of the time, just because they're lazy. Yeah, and some of the best horror films are foreign. I mean, my number one is a foreign horror film. There's a little hint.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. When I watched The Ring, because it wasn't because I didn't like subtitles. Obviously, I watched anime and all that kind of stuff, and didn't mind the subtitles. I never really heard of these films, so when I watched The Ring, then I looked into it a bit more, and then I found out about all these Japanese and Asian horror films and all that kind of stuff, and then I started watching them. So
yeah,
like you say, The Ring was a gateway for me to find out about all these other horror films that I just never knew about.
Yeah.
It's something, I mean, I know we briefly touched on it. You mentioned the Evil Dead kind of remake, soft reboot, whatever it was. And I know that like with some people, that was quite a controversial idea, remaking something that was beloved. But again, I saw that as a gateway tool. And I think it was clear that when they made it, they loved the original. But I think, again, you look at tough sells. So we talk about sometimes it's not even so much subtitle things. It's that transition of getting some people to go, this movie was made 40 years ago now, and a lot of people reject it straight away because they go, well, no, that's an old movie, I don't want to. And I think sometimes having a remake can get people to go, wow, and there's an original one of this, and going back and probably finding those things that we love about that franchise that they never would have gone near. So, I'm all for it, although I'm not necessarily for all remakes. I think they should be made by someone who actually loves the franchise and wants to do it, rather than just wants to do a cheap hack job and make some money. But
yeah.
So yeah, my number 4 is The Witch.
Yes, Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers, fantastic director. And again, a movie I'd heard nothing about. I just kind of stumbled across it. I think it must have come onto Sky Movies or Netflix or something like that, and it was on there. So before we started recording tonight, I mentioned to Andrea that we were doing my top 5 horror movies, and I said, have a guess what's on my top 5. And she did, bless her, she did get 3 of them right. But when I told her and I mentioned this one, her reaction was, oh my God, I forgot you like that movie, that shit movie. It's her second least favourite movie she's ever had to sit through with me. So I would say that it can be quite divisive for audiences.
Again, horror movies are not just based
Do you
on
hate it, Stu,
horror.
you say?
Yeah,
I love The Witch. It would be top 10 for me.
Yeah,
think
I love it, man.
So, again, it's such a versatile genre that you can tell these interesting folk tales and add that peculiar spin on it, be it, otherworldly. And yeah, it's a genre where the films are in some cases a lot cheaper to make, and you're guaranteed to at least break even, so you can kind of take these extra risks. And for me, The Witch definitely paid off. It's definitely in the top 10 for me. I think that it's.
I think
Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing in it.
If you try to do that as a sell of a movie, like if you take out the concept of The Witch, and you just said, I want to make a movie about a Puritan family on a New England farm back then, you're not making your money back, are you? So that inclusion of the witch element to it is key to it. But as I said, I think if you'd have sort of said to me, this is a movie based at that time, give it a go, I probably would have put it quite down on my list. But I think that's what was so amazing for me, is it pulled me into a world that I never would have looked at before, and it was the horror elements of it. The idea of there being a witch was the thing that made me press play on it. And you said that Anna Taylor-Joy. She was great, but I think all of them in it were great. I thought the acting was phenomenal, and the way that it looks is breathtaking.
The aesthetic is on another level.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the acting. Shout out to Kate Dickie. I think she's an amazing actress. And again, another flex. She follows me on Twitter. I interviewed her last year. Or earlier this year. I don't know. Time's a weird thing this year, but I'm pretty sure it's earlier this year that I interviewed her, and she's such a lovely person. And she spoke in such high regard about Robert Eggers. She said he's one of the best directors she's ever worked with, and he has such an incredible eye for talent, and his creative mind is just on another level. She said.
Does Black Phillip follow you on Twitter? Because if he doesn't, I'm not interested.
No,
but again, I do think it would be a tough sell for a lot of mainstream audiences.
Absolutely.
I think again it does sort of fit into that. It has so much of the movie where I think if you're not drawn into that world when you're watching it, you could easily argue there's so much of the movie where nothing's going on. But I don't think there is any point where nothing's going on. All of it is to set that level of unease. And you see this family basically just devolve, like they've been ousted from their town, and the hardship that they're going through, you see whilst this supernatural witch story kind of goes along with it. And it's harrowing. Like, I think when it actually starts to... when you start to kind of get to the meat of the supernatural side of it, you just feel wrecked for these people, and yeah, it stayed with me, and I think that's the truth. And I think even outside of horror, I think quite often those movies that will remain memorable and get high on these lists for me are ones that I'm thinking about a month after I've watched it. Yeah, and this stayed with me for a very long time, and I will say it's not one that I would stick on like once a week or something like that, but I do like to revisit often because I see something new in it every time I watch it. And it's not outstayed its welcome. And also, like, it's got that hidden bonus of going, if I do stick it on, it really pisses Andrew off because she hates it.
Yeah.
So,
I watched
there's a
it.
win for that.
I remember I watched it at the cinema. Because I looked at the reviews and I was like, I got to see this. And I think one of my favourite things about the film, apart from obviously the setting and the acting, is the pacing. The film's like perfectly paced for me. But yeah, it's funny that you say that she hates it, because the person I went to cinema to watch it hated it as well. I was like, at the end of the film, I was like, that was amazing, and then she was like, I don't know, shit. So yeah,
very.
And you never saw her again.
Very similar to, and it almost made my honourable mentions, but a movie that I absolutely love, Mother. And I remember going to see that at the cinema and walking out, and
one of the most divisive films I think I've ever seen. And
she, like, and not just her, I went with another couple, and like both, like me and Mark, the fellow who went and saw it. I loved it more than he did, but we both liked it, and both of Andrew and Amy, who were with, they just turned around and said that's the worst movie I've ever had to sit through. And but just very quickly on Robert Eggers before I move on, if any of you haven't seen it yet, The Lighthouse.
That's still on my list.
It is. I think technically come out in 2019, but got cinema release in 2020. And as January we say, it's a bit of a thin year for actual releases. But my God, if that movie doesn't get recognition at year-end awards, then there really is something wrong with the movie world, or the movie awards world, should I say. I think it is plays in a very different world to The Witch, but certainly comparably excellent and possibly even better than The Witch. I won't go into number 3 much because, as I said, It Follows, and we've already discussed that. But yeah, a film I like a lot. And my number 2, and strangely enough, potentially this could have been not my number 2, and it could have been switched out with some other movies. But it's Midsommar.
Yes,
and I won't go in over it again too much, but the same thing you said about the Babadook, Midge, is what really got me about Midsommar. Is it's a horror movie, but the way that they treat the grief that they feel at the beginning of the movie for the loss of members of the family is the thing that sucked me into this movie before we even got into what was ostensibly the horror part of it. And
dude, I'm actually getting chills right now just thinking about this movie. And it you mentioned, like, you know, the grief at the start sucks you in, but the fact that 95% of it is set during the day in the daylight, and it's one of the scariest movies I think I've ever seen.
Well, and again, I think
it's incredible.
Putting you into an uncomfortable world, but an uncomfortable world that you live in, because obviously we do live in daylight, but they go to a Midsummer Festival where it is perpetual daylight, isn't it? And so they kind of never have any sleep, which puts them on edge. And one of the other things that really sold me on this movie is the way that Ari Aster wrote the characters, and so you feel, or certainly when I watched it, I feel immense sympathy.
Yeah,
but he also managed to make the arsehole characters arseholes that you know, and maybe those worst bits of yourself that you try and hide down, but you know you're a bit of a prick sometimes. You might pull sort of some of the tricks that some of these do. And they're not kind of stereotypical arseholes. Sometimes they're kind of charming with it. But when you actually see kind of, let's say, the downfall of some of the characters, even though it's in some quite horrific ways, you're just going, oh yeah, fuck you, I'm glad you got that, because I saw the worst of me in you, and I'm glad that that's been kind of expunged from the movie. But as I say, it could have not made number 2, because I think Hereditary is as strong a movie as Midsommar, but there was just something that draws me to watch Midsommar more out of his, and I didn't want to kind of flood my list with that. And the other movie that actually could have, then this would have been my 7, that could have jumped in instead of Midsommar, is The Wicker Man, and not the Nicolas Cage version. But I think by doing this, and certainly in the last few years, and doing this list, what it made me realise is how much I've really enjoyed, let's say, modern horror. So horror in the last decade. I think the last decade has been an exceptional decade for horror, but it also taught me how much I like folk horror. I think I really do resonate with that side of it, a bit more of the weird, the occult, I've got so much love for The Wicker Man, but I felt like it was too similar to Midsommar. And I will say that as great as The Wicker Man is, I think Midsommar does a folk horror movie better.
Absolutely. And I mean, this for me, Midsommar, as much as I adore this movie, there's only 5 spaces on the top 5 list. So Midsommar for me is number 7.
Actually, just to quickly pick up on what you said there, Midge, I'll be honest, I found whittling this down to a 5 very, very difficult. And for a long time, I had about 25, and every cut that I had to make was painful. Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, as much as my top 5 has stayed the same for several years, there's so many films that come out, and I'm just like, they are like knocking at the door of at least the top 10. And as I said, your number 1 is my number 6 for sure. And then Midsommar and Hereditary, again, just Ari Aster is somebody, this brand new director that has in the last few years just exploded onto the scene. And I think both Hereditary and Midsommar
are masterpieces. And there's not a lot of people that you can say have had 2 10 out of 10 hits back to back.
And I know we mentioned it on the Babadook about performances. I realised I skipped over on Midsummer. Florence Pugh, who plays the main character.
What a year she had!
Yeah, that was an immense performance.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. Everyone in that movie knocked it out of the park. And yeah, Midsummer would be number 7 for me, closely followed by Hereditary. I think both. I think Ari Aster is. I'd say he's the best horror director working today, and I honestly cannot wait to see what's next.
I think him and Robert Eggers are kind of those 2 directors at the moment.
Imagine if they collabed.
Yeah, okay. Whatever you're going to release, I'm watching it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And that's it for me until we get to numero uno. That is.
All right, next one. This is fun.
Okay, Mid, over to you. He's scooping his cat's cat litter, I reckon.
What, Mid? Oh, has he got?
So yeah, mine's going way back, way back before everyone else's to 1922.
Yeah.
To Nosferatu.
Nice.
Obviously, everyone's heard of this film. Probably not many people have seen it, but because it's so old, it is quite a hard watch now because of its age and all that kind of stuff. But I just thought I wanted it on my top 5. Just to recognise where a lot of these, my favourite horror villain, if you will call him that, is Dracula. I love like any Dracula book, stories, anything like that. So I just thought I'd put in my top 5, just recognising obviously the first one.
I think you're spot on with that though as well. It is a tough sell now, isn't it? But you wouldn't have. If that hadn't been done so well, you wouldn't have so many movies, horror movies, as there are now. I think it is trailblazing in what it does. But yeah, tough sell for an audience these days because it is quite a hard watch watching it back now.
So the next one is kind of in the same vein. It's Scream.
What's your favourite scary movie?
Yeah, so I think this when it came out, I think this was something fresh when it came out. It was like it kind of gave like a new lick of paint to like the stalker kind of thing. It like brought it into the modern era. Yeah. Back in 1996, they incorporated it with like the teen culture and they had a lot of pop culture references in it and all that kind of stuff.
One of the best openings of a movie ever, I think, as well. Because I mean, people have now kind of obviously done that again and done that as a trope, but no one had ever done something like that in a movie before, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, and obviously, Wes Craven knows what he's doing. I don't think we've got a lot of Wes Craven films on our lists.
No.
So I think this is one of the only ones.
Unfortunately.
So yeah, that's why it was on mine. The third one, I don't think anyone's got this on their list.
No.
So this is quite a good pick from me. It's Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. Classic.
You guys all seen this?
Yeah.
And saw it young. That's one of the weird things. I was
same.
I was probably way too young to understand it the first time I saw it, and to be honest, I didn't understand it the first time I saw it. But yeah, I don't know. It was on the video shop library, and I went, "Oh, let's have a look at this." But I'm with you. A great movie.
Yeah, and it's like I like the way that like all the way through watching it, you don't really know what's going on until it gets near the end. You kind of suspect, but then when you get to the end, obviously everything's revealed. I just like the fact that it's so psychological. So there's no you won't find any jump scares really or anything in this film. It's just all psychological.
It's funny you mentioned that again. We've mentioned tropes. That's something that as much as the last decade has been an incredible decade for horror, the thing that I've hated the most is the emergence and overpopulation of the cheap, tacky jump scare horrors, as I call them. Like, I know that they're super cheap to make and they make a shit ton of money because some people just want to go to the cinemas and chuck their popcorn in the air and go, oh, when something pops out or, there's a loud bang or something. But I think those movies are so incredibly lazy, and it's something that, a lot of these movies on this list that we talked about, they avoid. And they benefit so much more from avoiding that cheap tactic.
Well, specifically with Rosemary's Baby, I think you're spot on, because this is one that, again, stays with you. You think about it afterwards, whereas with the jump scare ones, it's just a jump scare and you're out, isn't it? Like, whereas this is actually chilling, and afterwards you think, fucking hell, like, rather than it's a quiet bang, quiet bang, which I think a lot of the horror movies have tried to do. As you say, the kind of cheaper money making ones have tried to do in this decade.
Yeah, the psychological horrors are always the best. And again, as a horror director myself, I'm always. My plan is to always strive to not only use independent talent, because those are the actors and performers that need to have a light shone upon them, but I also plan to not delve into that cheap tactic and just really create unique horror experiences that linger with people long after the end credits roll.
Yeah, I think like most of the modern film, my girlfriend, she hates scary films. She likes horror films, but she hates being scared. And every time we're watching like a horror film, always near the start of the film, there's like a noise or something, and then they walk around the corner to try and see what it is, and she always gets scared. And I'm always like, oh, don't worry about it. It's the start of the film. It's just going to be a cat or something. It's not. They're not going to show the monster at the start of the film. But she obviously hasn't seen that many horror films, so she's not used to it like me.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that a lot of them like play. You know, at the start of the film, they're not going to reveal the monster, so it's just a cat or something making a noise. You know. But yeah, my second film, and I don't think anyone got this. Is this
if this is the film that I'm thinking of? If I say the name Dario Argento,
it is. Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, what a pick! Great pick.
Yeah, so this is the first. There's two Dario Argento ones, I think. So it was a toss up between the two, because the second one's really good as well. So yeah, it's Demons. It's an Italian horror film, as we've just said, and basically it's just a film where people get infected and start turning into demons. But the reason it's so high up on my list, and it's number 2, is I don't get scared very easy by horror films, but this scared the absolute shit out of me. When I was a kid, man, I couldn't sleep because of this film. And the second one, the makeup and the effects of the demons and the way the story is told and everything, it just scared the crap out of me. Midge, you've obviously seen it, but I don't know.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've seen it.
And again, I think like we talked about earlier with like when Asian cinema started to push horror, like Dario Argento again did a similar thing, but in the 80s, didn't he? He brought this kind of European flavour to it, and obviously not just with this, but with his other movies. And yeah, I think it was kind of
I love Suspiria.
a good freshen up of what was horror at the time, and brought like kind of a new voice, which of course then, you know, your mainstream Hollywood directors or like Hollywood is then kind of takes and runs with and kind of co-opts it in a Western way. But yeah, I mean, certainly up there in the probably the horror director legends that changed the game and had an interesting voice.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that Goblin did the soundtrack for Demons as well, because Goblin worked with Dario Argento on a lot of stuff, including Suspiria. Like, I love Suspiria. I think that's I know it's an easy pick for your favorite Argento film, but I think that is my favorite, the original. And I think that the remake of Suspiria stands on its own 2 feet as a great movie. But the original one just had so much, like you said, flavor and charisma and character to it, to the world and the characters, and just what an incredible director. I recently, not for myself, but I bought his autobiography, and I gifted it to a friend of mine whose favorite director is Dario Argento. So that's a book that I want to read at some point. But I remember I bought it for my friend's birthday, and I got a signed copy of it as well for him, which was super cool, because he was at Fright Fest last year, signing the book, and there to do a meet and greet, which would have been just an incredible experience to meet him and pick his brains, if only for a few minutes.
Cool. So yeah, that's your list done, isn't it, Mid?
Yeah,
Minus your
number one.
numero uno. Right, okay, it's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm looking for this.
So when you say this pick, can you just say it in the way that you spelt it for us?
That's what I was thinking. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who was thinking that.
But he doesn't notice that typo.
Right. I there's a lot of I think there's some. Just looking over my list, there's some similar themes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy, I think, is a big thing for me with horror as well. I think I like it when the two are combined.
Yeah, it's a good combo.
But this first pick, my number 5, kind of, I mean, going back to what I started with, kind of your memories as a kid and going into your VHS, your video rental place. I remember watching an American Werewolf in London when I was about, I must have been like 8 or something. Like a group of us kind of just rented it. I don't know how we got it. I think a friend's mum rented it. And at the time, absolutely, it's clearly not meant for an audience that young, but it and it's, as it would do, it scared the shit out of us.
Yeah, you get it, innit? Back then, you used to get, and you'd think, how did I get hold of that? Because I remember I had Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I think it was. And I was only about 9, 10, and I had to give it away, man. I gave the tape away. I was like, I can't. I was so scared I couldn't have this tape in my house. I was like, you take it, man. I don't want it.
I know. And when you watch a film, a horror film at that age, they really do affect you. And this one really did affect me for a few years going forwards. Like whenever I was out playing in the dark or whatever, I would always kind of that opening scene where they're kind of just walking the heaths. Before they go into the slaughtered lamb, or after they leave the slaughtered lamb, I should say, and they're getting kind of hunted down by the werewolf. I just always distinctly remember having like a fear of something always following me in the dark, and that's something that's always stuck with me. So I guess this might be a case of watching something highly inappropriate at a time when I shouldn't be watching it, but I do think, in retrospective views of this film, I do think it's a fantastic film. Fuck me,
it's the werewolf coming for you.
Jeez,
sorry about that.
Whoa.
I've been following you in the dark, mate. It's finally here.
Oh my god,
that wow!
But no,
that wow was coming for you, mate.
Fuck you. But
I wonder. Like, this is one that I think we talked about sort of separately, and again, like a movie I love, and I think in the listener bits, a couple of people mentioned it, and it is one of those movies that I really wonder how it would play with an audience now. But I think for people like in maybe like a 10-15 year gap of age, like it's just a movie we all love. Because I just think it did things that other movies didn't do, and as you say, like it had that horror comedy. But yeah, I've got a couple of years on you, but I think again I probably still watched it way younger than I should have, and it was impactful. Like I remember so much about it, and I could probably go 10 years without watching it, and I'd still remember so much about it because it just resonated really well.
Yeah, I think the thing I remember most about it is obviously the transformation.
Yeah,
being so gruesome, the effects.
Yeah, and I think that is another theme in some of the films that I've picked on my list, is kind of, filmmaking techniques and how they bring these nightmarish visions to life. And I think that's certainly the case in my number 4 pick, which is John Carpenter's The Thing. It's some of the stuff that they commit to film is crazy. Some of those, some of the transformations again of the alien creature, like taking over the bodies of dogs and other human beings, and kind of how that all manifests itself. And that amazing scene where there's one of the guys at the science station, I guess I would call it, when he's had a heart attack, and they're trying to use a defib on him, and his chest just opens and chops the guys, bites down on the guy who's giving the defib, and his hands come off, and heads come off and start sprouting legs. It's amazing. It's just an absolute like tour de force of effects. Effects filmmaking. It's
and as
amazing.
you say, for practical effects, like the bravery it took to try and do some of that stuff, and how well they carried it off, still amazes me to this day. And like I know I said it's in my honourable mentions, but for me, like this is one of those movies that stands up there as a. I think it's a flawless movie. I think it is a masterpiece of cinema for everything you've just said, like the effects. But I think the story is amazing as well. You know, like I think that dread of the unknown. Someone in this room is a killer, and I know, like obviously that like tweaks into things like murder mysteries and borrows from so many other genres. But I think they do that so well. That suspense of going, who is it? Who is it? And you spend a lot of the movie even trying to guess who it is and going, oh, but it's that prick, like that sort of thing. And I don't know. It has not only horror, but it has intrigue in it, and of course it has Kurt Russell. So you know, how could any movie fail?
Win-win-win.
Yeah,
Brucey bonus.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my films kind of deal with that. You know,
I was gonna say,
isolation
a lot of my films deal with Kurt Russell.
Speaking of Kurt Russell, have you seen? Oh God, what was the? The movie's just completely gone out of my head now.
Overboard?
No.
Great movie, by the way.
Hang on, bear with me. Carry on talking, and I'll get back to you. Don't know why the name of it's just gone out of my head.
Number 4, The Thing, great film with some interesting themes of the
Bone,
fear of
Bone
the
Tomahawk. Sorry, have you seen Bone Tomahawk?
Yes, and it is very good.
Incredible film.
I think, Stu, if I hadn't have discounted it because of like the sci-fi bit of going, well, if we ever do a sci-fi list, I think it would have been my number 2. I think it would have firmly gone into my number 2 if I'd have been including it in the list, because I think it's great.
Number 3 for me is Evil Dead 2, far superior to the Evil Dead.
Bruh.
In many ways.
Boo. No, I'm joking.
In many ways, almost a remake. In many ways,
yeah.
It feels like Sam Raimi kind of came back to this film that he made, as a independent filmmaker, and tried to, throw some cash at it and see what he could come up with. And it's, in my opinion, a far superior film.